From the beginning of time, humans have always looked towards the sky for inspiration and guidance. There has been a fascination with birds, stars, gods, goddesses, and other entities which seem to exist above us, and for many humans, a strong yearning to travel into space. Man has dreamt of flight since observing space, and now it is time to become the space traveller. The future of space travel requires us to understand from where we came, to see where we are going.
Several thousand years ago, philosophers Mozi and Lu Ban from China were looking to the wind for flight. They invented kites using silk and bamboo, allowing for the later development of communication, measuring distances, testing the wind, and lifting men.
The invention of the kite brought with it the desire to fly. The first known attempts at flight were typically by leaping off towers, known as tower jumping. People in China, India, and Europe first attempted flight this way.
In 1670, Francesco Lana de Tarzi published a book that showed some interesting concepts. The concept of copper foil in a sphere with a vacuum would produce a vacuum airship. This is still not possible with today's materials. Francesco is recognized as the father of aeronautics, melding science and mathematics into aerial navigation.
The Chinese are believed to have developed the first hot air device. The Chinese lantern, using hot air from a candle, can take flight and was first used for signalling. The hot air balloon achieved the first human lift and advanced to what we know of as the Zeppelin.
The first attempts at flight in a heavier-than-air flying machine were made by more than just the Wright brothers. Most attempts failed, however, they were the stepping stones for what was to come later. The oldest airport, College Park, is still in operation today.
Airplanes evolved rapidly through the century, from propeller to helicopter to jet aircraft, and most of that technology is used today.
During the Second World War, Germany developed rockets that could go a limited distance. The basic rocket technology used then is still used today. The space race started with the Soviet Union and the USA in 1957 and led to many developments for the next step, the moon.
The spacecraft assigned as Apollo 11 was the first spacecraft to have landed on the moon. The space shuttle operated at tremendous cost. Burning the fuel proved to be wasteful and dangerous technology. The International Space Station, ISS, is a habitable artificial satellite that was assembled in low Earth orbit in 1998 with the use of the space shuttle. The ISS can often be seen with the naked eye from Earth.
SpaceX, as a private aerospace producer and space transportation services company, was founded in 2002 by Elon Musk with the goal of reducing space transportation costs and enabling the colonization of Mars. SpaceX reuses the first stage of their primary rocket, Falcon 9, by vertical propulsive landings. Although, up to present time, it still uses the rocket fuel burning technology. Mehran Keshe has always said, the time for burning fuels is over. But did we need to start with that technology in the first place?
Ancient cultures have suggested the use of an alternative means of transportation. With reference to possible plasma technology,
you can go to New York from Brussels within 2 to 5 minutes. And most of this 5 minutes is actually landing and getting up.
Mehran Tavakkoli Keshe was born in Iran in 1958. As the son of an X-ray engineer, he was introduced to the world of radiation and nuclear science at a very young age. In 1981, he graduated from Queen Mary, the University of London, as a nuclear engineer specialized in reactor technology system control. At that time, he developed a number of theoretical ideas related to more simple nuclear concepts and their applications. In 2002, he decided to finish the full design of his ideas about nuclear technology. This included the creation and control of gravity and energy by the use of nuclear materials in a clean and safe hydrogen reactor. Mehran Keshe introduced the concept of double magnetic fields to explain the magnetic and gravitational field of Earth.
Unknown by the existing scientific community, he wrote a number of scientific papers in 2004 and sent them for peer review, such as the creation of black holes. When one of the persons performing the peer review used his information in public, he decided to draw back his papers and to concentrate further on building prototypes.
Since the beginning of 2006, several prototypes of dynamic reactors have been built, some specifically designed to create hovering effects, similar to effects seen with magnetic levitation. Basic hovering effects have been achieved. 2007 brought the first flight test with radioactive material, in which the patents describe the process of the field interactions.
The main patent, Gravitational and Energy System, described the initial fundamental aspects of the plasma and uses. This was followed by the supplemental patent, Microplasma Reactors, where further uses and advancements were described. Mr. Keshe found himself in Iran in 2008 and was provided all the resources needed to create the first lift of a plasma reactor managed by the Iranian government. These special rotating gas reactors were used to control the plasma. To bring a deeper understanding, Mr. Keshe released the first book in 2009, The Universal Order of Creation of Matters, which contained many new concepts released to the public. This included the PMTIC plasma magnetic fields, initial fundamental plasma and plasma dilution technology used for space reactors. The plasma technology was further developed and it manifested in weight fluctuation in a controlled environment. 2010 introduced a new state of matter called GANS, an acronym for gas in nanosolid state. The GANS produces fields to be used in the operation of the spaceship. Advanced flight tests were performed in Iran with the guidance of Mr. Keshe and the newly designed systems.
Mr. Keshe tells us you can't bring all the doctors with you in space. Medical research advanced in 2010 and is still being explored daily all around the world. The Keshe Foundation has provided knowledge for dealing with many medical conditions in space.
A great example of plasma technology used for peaceful process is the capturing of the USA drone over Iran in December 2011. This drone was touted as one of the most advanced drones of its day and was caught by Iran using plasma to disrupt the communications. Plasma absorbs fields and the drone uses radio fields for piloting, a natural aspect of the plasma, a barrier of fields.
Book 2, The Structure of the Light, was released in 2011. This book brought forward the understanding of the structure of light as a cylindrical plasma where the light is in possession of all magnetic field strengths. Book 3, The Origin of the Universe, was published later in 2011. Mr. Keshe explained the further operation and interaction of different strengths of the same fields, which then leads to the creation of the universe. These 3 books bring forward a much deeper understanding of the plasma science that is applied worldwide by knowledge seekers and scientists in spaceship research and development.
There were 2 conferences to release the space technology to governments in 2012. The first international presentation in April, Keshe Foundation invited representatives of every country to the first presentation of the plasma technology. The second international presentation in September, Keshe Foundation invited the nations of the world through their ambassadors and their leaders to attend a gathering at the Keshe Foundation Center in Nenove, Belgium.
Space travel requires peace. The implementation of the plasma technology brings greater responsibility. In 2013, Mr. Keshe brought forward the World Peace Treaty. Signing of the peace treaty is a confirmation from yourself to your soul to act correctly in a peaceful manner.
In 2014, knowledge seekers came together from around the world to learn from Mr. Keshe, and many different experiments with reactors were performed, including improving the previously developed reactors to fit with the new knowledge, introduction of nano-coated reactors, multi-core GaN systems. The Spaceship Institute lab experiments were streamed live on the internet for all to see. SSI lab tests with reactors showed strong magnetic field pulses up to 129 Tesla and showed significant weight fluctuations. In December, an experiment was performed using reactors built by knowledge seekers from around the world. Italy, Germany, and Canada were involved in field communication tests. The tests showed that fields can interact with each other no matter the distance or time, resulting in instant communication.
In 2015, developments for space continued with different aspects of the plasma technology, such as in health, energy, and decontamination. In October of 2015, Mr. Keshe taught a popular week-long course called the Blueprint Teachings about how to build the MAGRAV power units. People from all over the world participated with building their own MAGRAV units and teaching others. With the demand of the Keshe Foundation products from all over the world, a new research center and manufacturing opened in Arizona, USA. Many developments of the technology happened in different parts of the world, and Keshe Foundation USA is no exception. John and the team started performing experiments using different sensing tools. These tools allowed the team to visualize the MAGRAV fields and to show others their interactions. With reactor formations showing positive results, partaking in the knowledge together is easier and more joyful than ever. The fun has just begun, says MT Keshe.
Mr. Keshe publicly teaches the space technology through the weekly Knowledge Seekers workshops. Plasma enthusiasts from around the world participate in gathering the knowledge and putting the puzzle together in the space race. All people, irrespective of race, nation or religion, are invited to participate in the exchange of knowledge, thus assisting humanity to live within the ethos of the universe. It is recognized that international cooperation and peace is a prerequisite for mankind to journey into deep space. Individuals and nations are invited to come together in the spirit of collaboration and unity to enable peaceful application and the use of plasma technology for space travel, food, agriculture, energy, transportation, health, and more. We are excited to release the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Blueprint to humanity.
Welcome everyone to the 237th Knowledge Seekers Workshop for Thursday, August 16th, 2018. I'm Rick Crammond. I'll be your host today. This is the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute Education Public Teaching in English. And as usual, for the last 236 Knowledge Seekers Workshops, we have Mr. Keshe of the Keshe Foundation available to talk to us about the latest in plasma technology and the latest news from the Keshe Foundation. Okay, Mr. Keshe, are you ready for today's show? I'm hoping. Mr. Keshe, are you there? Your microphone's not open right now, so. Okay, well, bear with us a minute here while we connect with Mr. Keshe. Should we try to open his microphone, perhaps? I'll try that. Hello, Mr. Keshe? No, that didn't work. I'm having trouble unmuting here. So let's see if we can sort that out. The allow participants to unmute themselves is checked. Is there a more global way of?
Not that I know of.
Okay. And Mr. Keshe can't unmute as well. Is that the idea? Okay, well, bear with us a minute. Just have an unusual situation.
Hello?
There's a
Hi,
familiar
can you hear
voice.
me?
Yes, we hear you now.
Sorry about that. We had
Great.
some technical problem, couldn't get in. I had to change, what do you call it, servers on it. Good morning, good day to you, as usual, wherever and whenever you listen to these knowledge seekers programs. Sorry, I give you a little bit of rough time to start with, but sometimes it's good to see we lost everything, but it's still there. I wonder what we're going to do when we get lost in the space. Would anyone ever hear us to tell us where we are, who we are, and what we are? And we have to ask questions that, are we in the right place with the right people, in the right place with the right information and knowledge that we can save ourselves from anything which might happen to us. What I was just discussing before we start with Rick was that we haven't asked you to ask any questions relevant to the teachings of past few weeks. And in so many ways, what we would like to do, as usual, for you to ask any question this week, and we try to inspire and see if we can find any answers for it, or try to clarify the, what you call, the ambiguity or misunderstanding, or adding to the knowledge. As far as our weekly news or whatever we report what we have achieved, we are waiting for a response from both Iranian and American government. I just before come online just a few seconds ago, talking to the Americans, they are waiting for response, and the Iranian will respond to us most probably by end of today. The process has been, we asked you to send as many letters as possible to the Iranian American embassies around the world. Don't think somebody else has done, I don't need to do it. Carry on till we get a response in that way. I'm sure the White House usually takes 14 days to respond. We sent it, we managed to get it out to them. On Friday, the Iranians are fully aware of the offer, and as I spoke just a few minutes ago to the Iranian ambassador's office, we will get some response today, in one way or another. And simultaneously, we await the direction of motion and see what the American administration will decide to do. The offer still stays open. We haven't heard anybody rejecting it. And in so many ways, we've seen sometime last week, end of last week, that some people thought that was something was needed, bluntness of question and asking and see what will come out. The point is not if we get to talk, the point is how we get to talk. These situations never last. It's just a matter of how we bring the point of discussion, and who and when and where the discussion be accepted, be followed, and who wants to be. As we know, some of the world leaders want to stay out of the, what I call this game, because they think it's too much. We heard from one of the world leaders' office that they want to stay out of it for the time being. We keep to that position. But as we have contracts and structures set up that we know how to follow, we'll carry on with this till next week, 2 weeks, and see what happens. There is one thing which is inevitable. It will happen one way or another. In next few weeks, Iranian president has to be in Washington. It's part of the annual meeting of United Nations, and there is a possibility that will take
Hello?
place first. We have to see.
I'm sorry, Mr. Keshe, we just lost that last part of your sentence, and you said something, and there's a possibility that, and then we
There
lost
is a
that part.
possibility that the that I'll fly to Tehran to further push for, get agreement from the Iranian government that they make the invitational can be done. We are on a very, very dangerous territory. The position is not so much peace, the position is how much arm can be sold. The decision by the American president is not on the condition of peace and what will be achieved, is on how much America can sell arms. And this is part of the problem. Peace means huge reduction in arms sales, and millions of jobs in America rely on it. We have to find a way to change the course, and this is the major, major problem for these kind of talks. Peace talks means huge unemployment in armament and defense technology, because when you have somebody to be scared of, you can sell arms to those who you made scared, to be scared of. So we still sit on the table of negotiation, and we'll see how we develop this situation and how the Iranians respond and what position the foundation will take in that process. In respect to everything else, and Chinese research still goes on, we still see some interesting phenomena, but we are very slow in developing. We have problems, our problems accumulated from the accident which we had a few weeks ago, and we are going in a different direction. And we are setting up, hopefully in the next few weeks, to run a system totally without motors. This is what we call, we remove any element of motors from the structure, all the star formations, reactors, all the auxiliary reactors will run without any what we call motor engagement to create dimensions of motion. It is possible to do. We have, as I said weeks ago, started this process. Now we are going to the next phase of total what we call human motor engines system, and to create a dimensional motion. In due course we will teach this, how it's done, how it's been achieved. But as we said in our dynamic reactors, as 2 days ago, we still see creation of plasmas in the reactors, which means we don't need in fact the dynamic motors to run the plasma, to create a condition of a dynamic what we call plasma system. One of the biggest part of the teaching of or learning is that we are learning very fast in what is happening. We can start foreseeing or forecasting what the situation with the reactors could be. We had a very beautiful setting up of system for the last few days in China. We could see reductions in reactors coming down to the matter state. And suddenly we saw a change of direction in the fields where the motors were running out of control, they were speeding up. And asked one single question: what is the weather condition? And it was obvious there is a typhoon coming in. So we know from the experience of 4 weeks ago when we lost all the reactors, that the weather condition drains and pulls the fields away from gravitational magnetic field of the Earth. So what we decided immediately to shut all the reactors down to auxiliary matter level. That means they cannot be exposed to what we call opening of the umbrella that we add into the atmospheric, and then we have the same thing as we had a few weeks ago. So in that process we have learned that for our team, that any abnormality in the expansion speed of the motors, we have to step down. This is important as part of the teaching, as if you go to part of the patterns and development of the space technology reactors, this kind of phenomenon for creation of directional motion is very important, which means the field opens up into the direction of the motion of the much stronger field, and you get pulled in. You literally lose your magnetic shielding, and in that process you're open. It's literally anything can happen to the space reactor. So one of the things which is important in this process of expansion or increase in the plasma field, if you run the motors at a higher speed than you set, which means You have opened yourself to a stronger magnetic field. You are taking in direction of motion. If this reactor was not on the ground, most probably in a space, will move in the direction of center of typhoon. Therefore, it's a part of the learning process that how, in which direction, which one of the reactors were speeding up. When we look at the data we received over the testing, we see the direction of the motion sits with one reactor of reduction in magnetical or gravitational field flow as we shut down our launch pad. These data are valuable. These way of understanding is very valuable for us, because once we create a dimension and we see one of the base 3 reactors show increase in the speed or reduction in speed, we can dictate the direction which the field flow of the environment is pressurizing on the reactors, on the system, on the flight system. And this is important. Just 1 second, please. I have to answer a
Thank you, Mr. Keshe. I just remind people that Mr. Keshe is going to open up for questions here, and questions specifically on some of the teachings of the last few weeks, having to do mostly with the spaceship teaching and the teachings on the neutron and that sort of thing. So if you can formulate your questions, that would be, there's a good opportunity coming here to implement that. Is there anyone in particular that would like to get set up for that questioning period? Might want, if you're an attendee, you can put your hand up and then we can acknowledge you to ask your question. And if there's any questions from the live streams or other YouTube and other media, then let us know and we'll try to fit them in. Fried had a question in the live stream, just to fill in before Mr. Keshe gets back.
Hello?
Oh, there he is now.
Yes, sorry about that. This is part of just happened. It's a diplomatic call regarding Iranian peace by them, by the officials from embassies. We are still negotiating, and this, if it happens, we receive another call. I have to go off. This thing happens as it is. It's an official call from the governments we have to accept, and the peace talks is, as they say, is we're talking. As long as somebody doesn't reject peace talks, we can always talk, and both sides are prepared to talk. And it's fantastic to receive this kind of calls from the ambassadors to see we are still in the course, we are talking. That's more or less, I should say, is congratulations to Keshe Foundation.
Hello, Mr. Keshe, you just cut out there. Hello, Mr. Keshe, we can't hear you right now. Okay, well, we have a bit of a intermittent contact there with this line, so bear with us while we get that reestablished. It's a bad internet day. It's like people have bad hair days. The internet has bad days too.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yes. Sorry about that. We have a very bad line today. As I said, in diplomacy, you never, unless they tell you no, we are not prepared to negotiate, means we are negotiating, we are thinking, we're talking. And as I said, the call from the embassies shows both nations are prepared to talk. And when they call, it means the path is open. So, as I said, we should pray for both nations and see where we get the bold ambassadors and the leaders in the track that it goes. It's a big risk. It's a huge risk for the world leaders to meet, especially when you're in a conflict. And it's been done before, and we can do it again. Anyway, going back to what we were talking about in respect to the flight system, in the process of the expansion of the field, many of you have tested a lot, but you look at figures in one position. When you test, especially like in Arizona and other people and the governmental scientists who are in the background copying the system and doing it, is a teaching for you, not for those who just test something on a single reactor. In these processes, you have to look at the total dimension of the field flow. You have 4 basic cores. These cores, each one has a meaning. When you see changes data, this goes especially to our team in Arizona and to another position which are testing these flight systems, or they're trying to create flight. When you have a space top reactor, let me see if I can increase the thickness that you can see it. Okay, this one there. When in your top reactor and your bottom 3 reactors, you see numbers change. Let's say you start with 6,000, and then you start with 5,000, or you start with other way. You have to understand this system flow is dangerous, because to keep a flow going, you have to feed in this direction. And by the law of plasma, higher always goes towards the lower to feed it, to bring a balance creation. So if you put your reactor top 6,000, the bottom has to be 2,000 extra. So you understand, in so many ways, you follow the pattern of the field flow. Then you have another problem, which is obviously it'll come up in your test flights, is the fluctuation in this top reactor. The fluctuation in the top reactor is very, in a way, part of the structure of the flight, is if this is going down or if this is going up. If this goes down, which one of these reactors are holding steady? All 3 keep around the same speed. When you see a drop in this one, which means you have an increase, let's say on this one, you have a decrease on the top and you have a decrease on the side. What does it mean? It means gravitational field forces are pressurizing in this direction. Sometimes you see the field flow is somewhere between the 2. You get 2 of them dropping, or 1 drops and 1 increases. This shows environmental pressure on your system. This shows something here is pushing, or something on this side is pulling. The structure, till you achieve a full flow, in a way, till you achieve a full, in a way, shape of your spaceship, you're at the mercy of the environment. One of the ways that you achieve solidification, or become matter state with a plasma, is going back to the teaching as we taught last time. Something around 2,500, 2,800, depending on what you have loaded, maybe 3,000 or so, is your matter state. So what you got to do, you have to push the speed with changing the configuration, not just by changing the speed of your motor. You have to create an environmental condition that the speed drops to about 2500, which means the field flows create that condition. At the same time, these have to create the same speed, around about 2500, 2800. And when you achieve this, you start seeing shimmers. It's not just I put my machine at 2,500 and get shimmers. Unless you've been absolutely genius in loading it to every microgram and everything, every single material in your reactors is the same, motors are the same and everything else, this is very hard to happen. I've done it, but very specific condition. But when you test it like you do, you're in a lab, you're in a building, you're in a construction with concrete bars and the rest of it, it becomes very difficult. So you create a condition, environmental condition, in creation and absorption of the field and the boundary of the reactor till you push your reactor, till you allow the reactors to reach this number of rotation. Going back, as we said last time, in the research in the Sensano, we know around about 2.5 to 3,000 is where the speed does not make any difference. The speed of the rotation becomes irrelevant. We have flux, what we call magnetic field detectors, which shows in reality nothing changes after 2.5, 3,000 RPM, which means we enter a plasma condition. Plasma takes over the motor condition. So those of you who are in a flight test, flight configuration, this gives you a lot of information where and how you now should enforce flight condition. We have to be able to understand these things now that we're going in a space development. So if you go back to the teaching of last week, which we said the environment has or dictates all the conditions, be it the womb of the mother, be it in agriculture. Now you understand the same thing applies to the space development technology. Arizona is suffering heavily from this, and they're trying everything, but they don't see the whole structure behind it. When you run your space reactors, when you run a space condition, you have to achieve a harmony balance feed flow in your base, and at the same time you have to be able to achieve harmony balance flow in the totality. And you see, if you achieve the figures, then you see the tangibility. These kind of configurations, these kind of process is not easy, because you have to understand there are a number of factors in the design when you put motors which changes this. All of you have these dynamic small motors, so your magnets dictates changes continuously, so it dictates the field. Then is how you pull these fields to the top. How do you force the fields which are coming in, and how much can you absorb on the boundary that you can dictate the condition till the moment that you don't make a full cell, that now the system takes over, is impossible to control. And as I said last night, we saw a very clear indication. It was a single question to ask: what is the weather condition? We have 6,000 or 5,000 is increasing. One of the reactor base is increasing in the speed. As I said, is running away, is getting faster. And there's only one way. Why does it faster? Which means we have not managed to create a cell. And in that process, in this setup, the field flow of the clouds above us, which carries a plasmatic magnetic gravitational field flow. This is something which scientific world has to extend the knowledge to, is that the clouds do not carry electric current, the cloud carry plasmatic current until they come in touch or be reduced into the matter state. So that's why our reactors interact with clouds energy pattern, because it's of the same, it's of the same process. And the beauty of it, or what I call The problem with it is our plasma reactors at this moment of time are made of water. So we have two similar entity interacting with each other. That's why we effectively, if you look at your reactors, we are connected. We carry the same moisture. We carry the same H2O. So energy fields within this core is already has a common denominator matter state of the plasma in connection. So it's very easy to download. You got to understand, if you go back on the same principle, as we said, that the strongest feeds the weakest, you can know that our reactors downloaded into the cloud, which means the plasma gravitational. Are we back? Can you hear me? Yeah. What this means is that the gravitational magnetic field plasmatic condition in such a small reactors are so much higher that they downloaded to the storms clouds, and we think they deliver millions of megawatts. In fact, if the system, if the clouds would have downloaded to us, we would have seen the compression in the fields. We should have gone directly to less than 2000 or 1800 or whatever. But what happens, the umbrella opens, which means we are producing massive amount of energy in these small reactors. We are releasing neutron energy balance, which if those of us who understand the consideration of atomic structure energy in a what we call plasmatic condition, to deliver into the cloud and create such a huge conversion of the energy that we hit the transformers, then you can see how powerful these reactors are. If we get hit, if the clouds download to us, we should see explosion in our reactors. That doesn't happen. We see the opening of the umbrella, which means the speed goes up. We are opening in direction, so we are feeding into it. We are not getting stripped. We are getting opened up. And in that process, why we say we are not getting stripped or it's not getting opened up, that we lose our plasma, is because the other two reactors hold on to the speed, the same speed, or in the same combination of the speed. So what it means, the energy produced in these small space reactors at a neutron level, because especially the reactor set in China works totally and purely on conversion of the neutron, is not a hydrogen or what we call tritium. It's a pure, the way we designed it, we only consume, we only use when neutron is created. So neutron energy in a very, even a single neutron is so huge. And then we create these conditions. But the conversion of it is the biggest problem. We have to be able to contain it. We have to be able to sustain it. Those of you who are now testing in different space centers, especially governmental research people who we know are working in the background on this level, you have to convert the neutron energy into being able to control it. If you got to understand one big, what I call fundamental principle, and that is, if you have three reactors which can tame the top reactor and hold it and reduces the speed and rotation, but when you have an external entity like a typhoon or high clouds you create, then it means the power of the three base reactors must be much more powerful than the clouds. This explains, if you understand nuclear atomic energy, if you understand plasma transfer energy, it gives you a lot of insight. It gives you a huge insight into full understanding of the plasma in a space travel, in creating of the shields, in dynamic flow, and in process of the transportation and transmutation of elements. Because you can create conditions that this plasma flow from the top to the three base, you cut it up what you like to take from it to create oxygen, hydrogen, and everything else. You don't need to go outside. In a way, you create a condition which the cloud created outside to pull, you pull into the conditions of what you need to create. Hydrogen, water, or whatever. So establishment of the sub, what we call star formation systems internally to create matter or materials becomes part of the structure of the understanding of the process. So when we look at the field flow in the dynamic system, like the space reactors, this must be so powerful that can stand gravitational magnetic field forces of the planet. So why don't we, and how do we fly? The process is very simple. You have to create the plasma shielding, that you become an independent cell, that from there on, what we call always the soul of the system, or the free plasma condition, dictates its position in respect to Earth. Last night in the test, it became very clear that we are losing. We are just, I can read some of the writings from the space, the people who are on the site, that we are losing, we are speeding, it's becoming runaways, it's increasing in the speed. And very simply, all we had to do was to understand why, because there was no reason for such a move. And as we just asked one single question, was the air conditioned? Is it raining? And the answer was, we have a typhoon. The position is, as we ask now, what was the pattern of typhoon? Was it supposed to pass over the test center? Why do we get so much heavy rain typhoons over the space center? Are we leading to creation? Are we absorbing to be there? Are we pulling such a vast amount of energy that creates these conditions? Then the question comes, in the space, can we create a condition that we can protect ourselves by absorption of the fields internally within the reactors of the system, or what we call shielding? Many of you, in the process of most probably being on the internet or looking at different people report, you see what you call UFOs appear out of clouds, or they are in the clouds. They create that cloud. As you've seen, we reported 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, in South China Sea, and again yesterday. You should be able, and in a condition, as we explained last 2 or 3 weeks ago, we see creation of water in certain position of the reactors. It's, in reality, we have learned how to create clouds that can lead to creation of rain. What does this mean? In the space technology in the coming time, in the
Just waiting for Mr. Keshe to come back. We're not able to hear you, Mr. Keshe. I'm not sure if you can hear me now. Seem to have a bit of an internet issue today with the connection, so bear
hello,
with
I'm back again. Back again.
me.
So,
Thank you.
well, yeah, sorry about this. We have an unstable system here today. So what happens is, comes to the point of what we discussed. As I said, we see people say UFO comes out of the cloud. They don't hide behind the clouds. They create the clouds. And then in a given condition, in a drought, even in the huge fires, can we create a condition that we move clouds over that creates rain? These are the knowledge which has got to be gained and to be used for the benefit of mankind. These are the things which we will see in the development of the technology in the coming time. We know, we understand the process. Now it's time to be able to expand. As I said, we say something, and in a few months, few weeks, some of you will start testing and says, oh, this is what I've achieved. But if you go back to teaching, you understand it, you expand it, and where we get now. So in a test now, again, in a short time, we have seen the creation of massive clouds. We can create. Is it us? But don't forget, there are a number of Keshe Foundation supporters who have reported such a things they have created, or they can move typhoons or whatever. We cannot interfere in the course of the life of a planet. But in certain positions in running our systems, we created local conditions which we can and will affect. So we come to the next steps of the next step in the knowledge of understanding, and that is, can we create a condition that using our transportation, new ways of creating flight system, we can control rain, we can control forest. Many of you write to us that can you advise a system that it can stop fires in the forest. You can do, now you see it. But if you do, it's the biggest mistake, because you change the dimensions of the life on this planet. Forest fires is part of the structure of the life of this planet. Deserts are part of the structure of this planet. We can change harvest, we can change goods, we can change everything, but we have to understand what's the reason we are doing it. What's the principle behind it we are doing it? Are we doing it for short term, or are we there to sit to change? Can we use the motion and the movement of the desert, but at the same time create a condition at the boundary of the desert that we can halt it? But what would happen in 100,000 years, in 1,000 years, when the energy of the desert, which is supposed to move, has been stagnated? It's still there, we cannot stop it. We can put a fence in front of it, it's like a dam. At a point, sometime in the future, this dam will break. In a understanding of the total cosmology and what we call the understanding of the geology of this planet, we'll find out whatever we do, now that we have gained this new knowledge, will affect something somewhere else. Or is it, I'm okay, Jack, forget about what my next door neighbor happens to him. Because becoming part of one nation, next door neighbor is the same nation as part of us. These are the technologies which are coming, these are the test results which are coming in, and through test results, we have to understand what we are creating. In a process of teaching, we refer to creation of neutron, how you created the atomic structure and molecular structure, or you created atomic structure in a nano condition against of the plasma, and you led to the creation of new dimension. But now this new dimension, what we call plasma of a neutron, can be used directly itself. How do you load this, that you can create a condition? How can you transfer loads from what we call gravitational to magnetical? If you look into the structure of the, those of you who work in the space level, very simple, and that is, if you look into your reactors, if you look into your reactors, the same process follows. If your ratio in respect to your reactors is understood, is you create the field. It wants to move. Sorry about this, I have to change something that it doesn't want to move. Okay, so if your ratio mass is this way, you create gravitational, or if the ratio mass is this way, you create magnetical. So then you need only one reactor, one fuel. But there is a further steps in the knowledge of the space technology that you cannot keep on carrying neutrons with you. We go into the next level of understanding of the space technology, which is the free energy, the origin of the creation of life. Which means you have to find a way that you take advantage of the fields and not the neutrons. Field technology transfer, the origin of the creation of life, is balanced according to the process of understanding. Remember, you came from ganses and you produced the neutrons. Now you have to use the neutrons to create a condition of free plasma. And that free plasma, in a condition of understanding the field forces of the creation of the structure, he will not interact with a neutron, but he will interact with the field plasma, which is the creation of his own soul. This is, if you go back in the teachings of 3-4 years ago, we call this, in a simple way, a free plasma position. If you look, and now that you have started creating neutron reactors, very simply, this is what we've been teaching you from. Creation of the plasma without containment. Creation and control of the plasma without containment. Because what happened, it goes back to the origin of life. If you remember, very simple. We put egg and sperm together, from it we created the soul of the man. And through it, we created the dimension of creation. Now you put the neutrons, you created the condition of the fields, what you call the free plasma. But up to now, you were in a matter state. Now you come into the condition of the free plasma state, which means non-containment. And what you will see in the dimension of the development of the reactors, as you remember, you had the 4 reactors, 3 base and 1 top. Each one of these has created its own free plasma. And the interaction of the 3 has created condition of the creation of the plasma itself. Because you have to see what you have. Each segment has created its own free plasma, and the totality has created a top free plasma. Now your control system sits in this. In a way, if the knowledge of man increases in the coming time, what you will do, you use the motors, you use the neutrons, you use the cores to create the fields of the free plasma. And once you tap into the free plasma without matter construction, then you create the totality. This is what you see in the spaceships, what you see in UFOs. When you look underneath, you don't see any containment. You see reactors without containment. You see the light. Then this process leads to creation of the totality. If you remember a few weeks ago, I explained that there is another step in the process. There is another step in understanding of the process of the teaching. So in that process, now we achieve non-tangibility through tangibility, and then from it we increase the understanding of the total system. Then we see we become independent of the matter, we become intrinsic of plasma, and the creation between the all fields on their own leads to creation of new life. We do not need to be tangible. The field plasma theory in so many ways becomes part of understanding of the new science. Then we can do without any motors, any reactors, any physical tangible understanding. Then you understand the soul of the captain. When we explain, be it non-tangible, will become part of the process. As I explained very recently to one of the knowledge seekers, I always said, when somebody goes in direction and we explain to everyone the same, is that what you will see, the size of the spaceship, depends on the number of the souls or entities with soul which carries. So as you add more passengers, the size grows. When you see a spaceship thousands of kilometers in diameter, you can imagine what it carries. With this kind of dimension, you do not build reactors that are just one piece or two pieces and you get another bar and you get another sheet of metal and you build it. Then you understand, going back to the basic understanding of the space technology and the magnetic field interaction, you go back to one principle. Again, you remember the magnets? If you put another magnet in between, they move out further. If you put two more magnets in, they move further. And now you see you're a spaceship. And the size of a spaceship is determined by the fields which it carries, and it's been preset to carry. It's very much like a tent, goes back to the original teaching. You expand the tent as you need. It's no use having 1,000 kilometer or 1,000 or 2,000 diameter spaceship when it's just only one of you. How are you going to get to the other side? What's the base of energy to go across? Then you understand, in a space technology development, there are no control systems. Anytime you come across the control systems is understanding the process that the majority of the science to this level has not been achieved. The maturity of understanding and knowledge of space technology is to be detached from the matter state. And then we enter into a new dimension. Then can you hear me? Can you hear me? So we see how far, yes, thank you very much. I have one of the knowledge seekers with me, I get the immediate response. So in that process, we see how fast we can change. This is one of the final frontiers of the knowledge of the existence in the universe. You came in dimensions, in the GANs, in the matter, in neutron. Now you have to understand the only way you go to a non-dimensional reactor system operation is when you create a cluster that it creates its own soul, and then the strength of the soul creates the dimension of non-tangibility. This is the true flight in the space of universe. If man reaches this point of maturity, man has achieved to travel in every dimension of the universe, even to the level of the soul of the creator. But you have to understand what is the next, what are the reasons, what are the results. When you pick up a data, just don't look at it something. Look at its interaction. Look at how this field interaction has led to what. Why one of the reactors slows down. Why we don't see a field in one side, we see the field on the other side. We see how we interact. We see how the interaction of the fields put field forces on all totality of the systems. This is part of the understanding of the science of the universe. And if you go back, what I explained today is exactly what it was explained in 4 years ago, 3 years ago, in the teachings whenever we refer to free plasma. And if you go back in the teachings, what you see, and you just saw a few minutes ago, in the creation of the free plasma in each quarter, was part of the teaching. Now you understand how it can be achieved. Those of you who work on the neutron development, you got to understand there's still a step to go. We came from the gases, we created the neutron. Now you have to learn to use the field, which is a strong neutron connection, to create the free plasma in all three spaces of the reactors, that it leads to creation of the non-tangibility condition. If you manage to achieve a balanced field force, then you manage to achieve total non-tangible condition. 100%. When you see the spaceships which create clouds, you see spaceships which can travel in speeds beyond your imagination, have reached the understanding, these passengers have reached the understanding of this totality. Then you understand, if you carry such a field, You can manifest yourself in any dimension in the universe according to its environment. So if you are a passenger of such a spaceship and you appear on Earth, gravitational field, magnetic field of this planet dictates the shape you manifest yourself, which is the shape of 2 legs, 2 arms, or 4 legs, 4 arms. You got to understand, not all the creatures which come on this planet to see end up with you, with two, like you, with 2 legs and two eyes and 2 ears. According to the structure of the origin, they can appear as plants, they can appear as animals to live in the oceans. They can appear as structures within the atmospheric condition of this planet. Not necessarily all end up the way you think they have to have and appear and talk. They feel interaction from the source which they, what you call amino acid or DNA or RNA has set up, dictates the manifestation of appearance on this planet. In this planet they might appear as a fish, but on another planet they might appear as a tree, because it's according to the understanding of the field forces of in that environment. And in so many ways we can create condition that in its interaction can create the coexistence of all races in the universe. Because when you create a dynamic, plasmatic, non-tangible environment through the interaction of the fields of the neutron, then you understand every entity in the universe has a home to live in. Then you understand the totality of the creation of the Creator. Then you understand, you become part of non-tangible dimensions of existence. Some of those who elevates your soul to that level, you'll find out you become detached from physicality. As we say, wherever I lay my head is my home. Wherever I have the field strength of the existence, I'll manifest myself. Now you understand how easily the knowledge of the creation can be taught. It's the process that we have to understand. It's the process that we have to be able to follow to reach the dimension of non-tangibility. And then you achieve transportation, transmutation, and in so many ways, understanding of the plasma in the universe. In so many ways, as we say, blessed those souls who understand. As I said, we teach you step by step. And there's still another step after this non-dimension. Then that brings you to the level of understanding of the Creator. But if you look at it, we started from matter state of a copper and zinc, and how through understanding of it, we have covered the full cycle of the creation. To become from matter state to reach the level of the understanding of the Creator. But you have, and the man's intelligence at this moment of time is grown enough to be able to take these steps in the coming time. The research center in China is still struggling to reach the neutron manifestation. But once the neutron manifestation is reached and the free plasmas are created, it comes the creation of the free plasma, which comes the creation of plasma appearance, confirmation of the existence through the plasma magnetic fields, which then makes, you will see in the time will come, very easily the materials literally disappear. The reactors, the motors and everything else, through the interaction of the fields of the free plasma, become in the energy level and become part of the structure of the free plasma themselves. In the way, it's very much the same as when a man passes away, where the soul takes over and calls upon all the souls of every single element to join in, to elevate itself, to create a new dimension in its own existence. in this process. We are not doing anything else. It's just for man to understand the level of the process, to understand the level of conversion, to understand how the soul of the man will convert itself, and how our physicality converts to become a non-tangible, and in its own take shape in its existence. So those of you who were worried, you went from the hydrogen GANs to the GANs, and then you came to the plasmas, and you came to the neutron, and you say, now he's gone somewhere new. I haven't gone anywhere new. I've gone back to the beginning from 3 or 4 years ago, the creation of pre-plasma. But now you understand, the soul of the controller, the soul of the captain, has to be so pure that can accept the condition of the interaction of the fields. And if some of you are pure enough, will understand how the soul of the creator shall create from the existence of the fields. It takes me one stroke of a pen to show. But is the man ready to understand? As is in the writing of Baha'u'llah's name, he says, if I tell you how beautiful it is, you all commit suicide. Because you become part of it, you're part of the structure of it. We have a saying for us, you say, قطرات جمع شود آگهی دریا شود, means every single drop of the rain coming together, it makes in one with the ocean, it makes the ocean made from the drops. So is the drop of the soul of every life on this planet, in this universe, which leads to that ocean, which is the ocean of the soul of the creator. Then are you a drop, or are you the ocean? Even though you're still a drop within the ocean, but you are the ocean which creates the further drops. And those who understand the theology of the universal existence by now have found the answer to the position of the creator. Then do we need to teach more? This way we have completed the cycle of the teaching for man to be able to enter into the universal community and be equal. And from then on, whatever he adds to his knowledge is according to his intelligence of understanding the soul of the creator. How close, now that you are part of, would like to be. As I said before, the teachings become very fast, and become faster because number of organizations, governmental organizations and individuals are on the path to achieve. So we make it clear that they understand what they're about to see. Any questions?
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Keshe. And again, I remind the attendees they can put their hand up so that we can allow you to speak. And the panelists, you can open your microphone if you are courteous, and otherwise you can put your hand up if you like to, if we have many people asking questions. Would anyone like to go forward?
Or you're all frightened of understanding the truth?
I do have a couple of questions that came up earlier in the Q&A, like from Skywalker, who says, when do we go to Mars? And from Brett, who says, do you still use wings in your reactors with the neutron alone.
What do you mean by wings? Do you want some feather?
I'm assuming he means like some sort of rotation device that would be inside.
It means you have not understood the process which I explained. You got to understand, maybe it's so to explain it the other way. You got to always, when you speak about plasma, to understand the totality, which when you speak about the plasma, even in the 2 dimension or 3 dimension, when we speak the direction of flow of plasma, this plasma itself has multifaceted operation. It's not all in one direction, one field. So this dynamic system inside itself creates its own dynamism. And it's the same with this one. And this one is the same. So if this matches with this pushes, and the other one pulls, and this creates a dynamic motion of the both system. Those of you who work on the space development technology, you have to realize that I emphasize on it again and again till it's understood that the gravitational magnetic field of your star formation can never change. These 4 reactors, which you start with mechanical system, will have to stay at a specific given space condition, because without it you cannot create the tangibility. None of them can fall or rise, because then you lose half of this field or half of that field. You lose half of your plane, suddenly it's open, the spacecraft. So in the process, you have to, even when you come into the field free force of the plasma, to construct, to understand, you cannot lose your, what we call, boundaries. You can play with everything else in respect to the other fields to be pulled, but these 4 are sacrosanct. They have to be able to contain the shape. Then it leaves you how you play with the fields within the structure. You have to maintain the structure. You have to create condition inside that it allows you to be pulled to one direction, or move to one direction, or to create a matter. Then you are limited to what you have created as a plasmatic field force, which led to the creation of the matter state, or tangibility or visibility. Then you understand why all the spaceships you see in the universe are all of the same color, more or less, depending on the point of the interaction with the environmental fields. It's silver in color, and it has a reason for it. And if you go back in the interaction of the field flow expansion, we always talk about the silver color. In fact, it's not silver, it's the interaction of the fields, which in the atmospheric condition of this planet gives the illusion of silver color, but it's transparent. If you can create fields above the fields of the interaction of higher order plasma, which the system has created itself out of, which is only as part of the attributes of the creator, you can see through these systems. It's like putting nuts. We understand the process. Now is applying the process. the system in China, the system in Arizona, the system with the governmental offices who are replicating through the teaching, it's very, it's not completed. But they have to learn the step that they can control the next step. It's like the captains of the, what we say, from the space reactor in China. We have chosen a specific soul that he has to train himself to be, that allows him to be what we call the captain. The same is with Arizona, the same is with the other organizations who run these. If you have people of the ambition and wrong order, you would never achieve it. It does not matter what it happens. Any other question?
I've got a question sort of in regards to the previous drawing you had, where you had the free plasma and you showed the different interacting fields, and some were going out, some were coming in. And this relates to a discussion that we were having yesterday in the plasma group. And so in that circumstance, is there like a polarity to the structure? Is there an in and out to the...
Let me explain to you something.
How do you add up all the bits and pieces, I guess? Is there some relationship between them all? Like, is there harmonics involved or some kind of relationship to all the different parts?
The process is very simple. When you create it's very simple. Believe me, it's as simple as anything. When you look at now you come into the neutron level, and you have created the two neutron dimensions because they balance themselves. In creating the field plasmas, once the field plasmas are created, you will find something very interesting. Because now it's a field itself and is not the matter, you'll find that they balance themselves. If you look at it, the structure is very much now the same as if you call it amino acid. Huh? The orange one is literally what you call DNA. Then the green ones are RNA, of each one carrying a combination of the cell soul of itself in interaction with the others. So there is nothing you can dictate, but it's dictated to according to the field environment. And we know how environment can affect the field flow in each reactor. Yesterday in the runaway situation, I asked our team to shut down to 2000. You can't shut down totality. You suppress to the matter state that the plasma cannot enter. That's all we need to do. Today, tomorrow, when the storm goes away, it's not finished. You still have to wait for the balance of the energy. And then you have to create that condition that the balanced energy will create field forces that dictates condition of flight. So do you need a gate to enter in a physical matter? Can you hear me?
I didn't quite catch the last sentence. You need a gate to enter, and
You do not need a gate to enter. You don't need the door to enter. in the dimension of the physicality as we have it. The space program, the spaceship program, is understanding of the totality of balance of the soul of the man. And if you look at what's on the screen now, and there's Arman and other Keshe Foundation knowledge seekers who've been around from past 45 years, they tell you we've spoken about the same thing. It's exactly what has been taught past 3 years. Now you understand how to achieve it. It's not that the neutron is everywhere. Now we got the neutron in a free condition. We need its field that it leads to the creation of the neutron itself. Then that field has no dimension. You become to non-tangible space reactors, because now you have created this position. It's very much like putting a scaffolding to build a building, and when you build the building, you take the scaffolding down. Without a scaffolding, you can't build it, because you can't put everything in position. Now you build the scaffolding, you put everything in position, you take it down. The reactors, tangible reactors, space reactors which you built up to now, is that the scaffolding to create this non-dimensional, non-tangible reactors. Now you see how we take the scaffolding off. All the motors and things are not needed. So it's very easy. We had to get to the point of putting the bars and bolts and joints of the scaffolding together to put the things in. Now we put the building together. Now it has solidified, it's built this shape. Now we take it away. And then we'll see the total manifestation of what we call non-tangible systems. The whole human race can fit into one spaceship. If the human race decide we want to leave and where we want to go. And this goes back to what we thought. Is it time to leave? There is a disaster on the horizon? Could be. But how fast man will achieve this? Is very much when you're on the ship, off the shipwreck, and you see the others floating in the water and you try to catch everyone to be saved. Are we going to save the whole mankind and all the souls on this planet? Is the time that the ship is about to go? Are we all on the life jackets and floating on the lifeboat? And is this a lifeboat for humanity? Any other question? Or is man
Yes.
so much in love with the physicality that doesn't want to let the physicality go?
Well, that's probably true. Otherwise, we wouldn't still be here on this planet. Something's keeping us here. And it's not the beer, as they say. We're not here for the beer. Some people might be.
Are we here for the tear?
Maybe that's it. It's either the beer or the tear, one or the other.
Okay.
There was a question that had come up last week, and I see it's posted here now from Flint as well. It's from the Facebook, from Bente, who says, I am reading book 3, The Origin of the Universe, and also the Fukushima document, and have the following questions. 1, why is some radiation so dangerous to life, such as human and birds, fish, etc.? Is it plasmatically? What does the radiation do to fuel the DNA, or to I think she means to affect the DNA?
You see, radiations are not dangerous. The source of radiation can be dangerous. Because if you understand that the structure of the human body is in a plasmatic condition, mono energetic systems, mono energetic rays, which can you hear me? Hello?
No, you cut out there.
We lost the last sentence or so, yeah.
Yes. Okay, so what I said, the human body is in a plasmatic condition, it's in a gas state in our muscles.
You're gonna have to start over again there, Mr. Keshe.
The human body's in a plasmatic condition and a GANS state, I think you said.
Okay, what I said is the human body is in a plasmatic condition. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so what we call radiation is a mono-energetic. It's become that plasma which has reached the position of what we call neutron has created and released. All the radiations in the what we call man-called radiation are energies which are released in balance from the neutron. We do not have energy release unless it's from the subdivision of the plasma of the electron or proton, which is very rare. It's not so rare because they balance each other off. So when you receive what we call radiation, is exactly what you have here. This is a neutron. In that process, neutron is feeding, is releasing its energy. So it has to find a matching somewhere that it can interact to. And the body of the man has that position. Being weaker, it receives. But at the same time, when we receive the radiation field, we are emitting too. Is that emission of fields from the atomic, or what we call molecular plasmatic condition of the body of the man, which causes the damage, not from what we receive. What we receive is 1 megawatt. What we give is more than 1 megawatt. The energy loss is the cause, not energy gain. This is a total upside down physics which we have been taught. You remember Tesla? He worked on this, and Miles worked on this. Tesla can make a Faraday cage. Miles can pass Faraday cage. And there is a ratio in this. In the test, we know the ratio. So when you speak about are the radiations dangerous, when I set up to work with Fukushima, it's not what radiation was coming into the body or environment, is what I could take out of the environment. It's a opposite to the present knowledge of the physics. In many of my works and teachings in private, I teach this. Because man has not understood, cannot comprehend this. You cannot fill a cup in if the cup is already full. And if you go by law of Newton, if you understand in the matter state, then what they say, what field exerted can follow through. So to displace the water from the cup, you cannot put 1 Newton to get one out. You need to put more than 1 Newton to be able to pass the flow of the cup. In a plasmatic field flow, there is a ratio in what has to go out that you can take the fields in. So when you speak about nuclear radiation, you don't look what is absorbed, what can be absorbed. You look what environment can you empty that that field can be taken in. The damage comes from the rejection or release, not from absorption. And that's why most of the present radiation and most of the what we call nuclear plasma technologies have a problem. They have not understood. Tesla, in latter part of his life, understood this, but he couldn't shape it. He could not shape it. Go to the work of Da Vinci. Da Vinci, in part of his work, in the process of when he was opening human body, saw the fields, but he could not. In some of his paintings, he refers to it in the drawings of his paintings, because he could not put it in words, but he could explain it in the paint. Now for the first time you understand, but you have to see when you have a field coming in, does not go low. What is empty to accept that, which is much stronger. When you drop a stone in a cup, it doesn't displace the same amount of the water as the stone, but it carries the wave, the pressure with it as well. So if you put a stone in a cup, you displace the same amount. But if you drop a stone, you displace much more. Radiation fields come as displacement, not as placing. So they carry massive amount more fields. To accommodate that, you have to make space empty for it, that it can come in, can be absorbed. And man has not, in science of man, we always looked at physicality. It's a very simple thing, but there is a ratio, amount of fields you can receive to amount of fields you can give back. And it's always what you give back is more, because you have not only to find a spacement for the energy which come in, but the disturbance that energy has created with the other fields has brought itself within. And once the world of science understand this, half of the world communication and energy system is solved. Not half, actually more or less 100% of it. Tesla touched it. Tesla, if you go through the work of Tesla in the latter part of his life, you see some of indication of it. If you look at the Da Vinci's paintings in the latter part, when he took the body of the man and he started understanding the structure, in that process he was enlightened, he saw things, and he's doing it in some of his drawings. You see it clearly if you understand the knowledge. But he couldn't explain it, because there was something which was not in the world of science he was taught and he could think.
There was a part 2 and part 3. I think you may have answered part 2 of Bente's question here. Why does DNA get affected by radiation when the DNA is actually in the GAN state? I believe you might have covered
I
that
already answered it.
Yeah, before I asked the question.
Yeah, but you got to understand why DNA get affected. Let's explain why. Because DNA is a compact energy pack, and somewhere this energy is absorbed by it. So it increases it. It increases the level. So now you're working in a hydrogen level, now you work into tritium, or maybe helium level. So now you're in a higher level, because not only you absorb the field, but the, what I call energetic transfer of the field as well. and then it manifests itself. Now it doesn't work in the hydrogen level, it works in the helium or deuterium or tritium level. So that releases more, or the whole structure cannot hold on to, because one of the DNA structures has accepted it. You got to understand, DNA structure is totally amino acid based. So it has central dimension plasmatic field, which itself in some states is a matter absorption equal to what is received.
Okay, well that gets to part 3 of her question is, how does the decontamination of radiation at Fukushima work? And she asks for, please show it graphically.
The decontamination, it comes from the balance field. If you go back to the presentation of Yokoko, when she went to, if you remember, she went to Fukushima and we had a live presentation when
Yes.
she was in Fukushima. Actually, where are these tapes? Do we know where they are? Does anybody know where was kept in the archives?
Have some.
I'm not clear where the original videos are, but I know we have some of it was covered in probably the early knowledge seekers workshops.
Yeah.
Or special broadcasts we had at that time on Fukushima.
Yeah, if we go back into those, but it was a live recording, Zoom recording at that time. We should have it somewhere.
Wasn't it the 9th Keshe public teaching workshop?
But we had a special teaching with her doing 2 or 3 live presentations in Fukushima. Do you remember when she was in the test center? She went to another one the following day.
Yes, I remember that. That was part of the live teaching, or live video thing we did at that.
Do we still have it? Does
time.
anybody know where they are?
I think so. You'd have to look it up and see. That was in 2014,
13, 14.
Yeah, I think 14 maybe.
Yeah, because we started in February of 2014, the knowledge seekers, and after a couple of months she went to Fukushima. If you look at that process when they did the testing in Fukushima, and we know from subsequent testing in Belgium Nuclear Center in Mol and the other data which we have from other atomic tests, nuclear tests, is that we have not destroyed or got rid of the radiation. We have unlocked the radiation. What this means is very simple. Partially is this, and partially is other factors which we can explain. When you have a nuclear, what you call element, whatever it could be, when you introduce the GANs is in a plasmatic condition. So what I'm going to do that you can see it. So this creates a field, which in being a plasma, these fields at some point in a strength are of the nuclear source. So what it is, it locks into it. We do not get rid of the radiation. If you do an atomic test, you see the nuclear material is still there. But what we done, this nuclear material is radiating all sorts of fields. But now with adding a gas, which is a plasma condition, we lock it all into it. It becomes the electron too. Is it there? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, it's fine. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So what happens is the fields from the plasma of the GANs, it embraces the totality. We never get rid of the material. Nuclear material is sent. Now we have created a new atom. When we test all the nuclear material testing, we always see the material to be there. Sometimes conversion and division of this to a new material happens due by coincidentally being in a phase of the division of the plasma of the radioactive material. This is one of the biggest concerns when we explained, and we see the Fukushima becoming untamed and everything, how we transferred by introduction of certain elements, the cesium or tritium, understanding of the both to be the same, into gold. Is a conversion of one element into other by adding one, which caused the release of one more element. Fukushima is a huge Japanese wish they could have more Fukushima to be able to create monoatomic gold. I've explained this in the papers and in other teachings. So when you release radiation in a gas state, you absorb, and partially the field strength falls enough to what it is to create a dimension that it opens up and the damage is there. If you have a radiation exposure, just all you need to do is just drink a cup of gases in the right composition. It absorbs all its fields, your cell stays the same, and you urinate it or you pass it through different ways. In some of the tests, we see the radiation actually being on the sweat of the man. Can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Keshe.
Yeah, can you?
Now we can't. Something happened there. Yeah, just
Hello?
you're back. Yeah, you're back now.
I'm back on again. Sorry about that. So what we see, the surface radiation damages, because of its conditional positioning, appears as sweat on the body of the man. Some of the tests in Fukushima confirms this. We actually sweat the radiation through that condition on the skin. And if you go back in work of Dr. Rodriguez, we shown in respect to the metal, and we shown in the brain cancer, the removal of the calcium from the brain cell in the tumor. It's the same process when you see the breast cancers when it opens up. The field is that way that it opens up because you create this conditional absorption of the fields through the matter state. Nobody puts a knife into it. The same as when you put the magnets and you see the magnets positioning themselves by receives of the plasmatic field of the gans through the calcium deposition in a gans state in the body of the woman, you create that expansion. It's the same if you had the two magnets and now you put a magnet, they move back to create a space. But when you have a calcium in the breast of the woman and you create a field into it, what does it happen? They open up. Why do we see the breast opening up and the calcium comes out and then it shuts again? Because once you move this magnet out, the magnets can't find their position. This is why we do not need plastic surgeries and the rest of it if the doctors elevate their understanding to a further step. Because in the condition of the breast cancer, we have a matter state of the calcium which was deposited from the bone of the hip of the woman during the menstruation in the breast. Is a physical conversion of the matter. And what happens? The matter state of receives absorption, so now is a positioning. So the breast opens up to find a new position. And when the surface calcium which is absorbed, created a magnetic field of it, is rejected by the body, then the breast closes. And then because the field dimension creates a condition of the existence that with the shape of the breast, because it's already pre-planned by the brain through the dimension of the soul, you get the same breast back in position. In the first test we saw Dr. Rodriguez, the breast became very small. You have to ask what was the psychology behind that disease, that cancer to start with. I don't want it to be there. So now I got rid of the cancer which is not there. I keep it away that it doesn't get used. Hasn't changed. We have enforced a new condition, but we haven't changed the soul. If the soul, if the doctors, if the Dr. Rodriguez, when he did this, or the other doctors, which now this cancer, breast cancer runs to a number of cases has been done, if they understand that they have to satisfy the soul of the patient, that is satisfied with the condition which is created, not only rejecting the cancer, but the soul of physicality is accepted by the soul of the woman, you will see the matching breast to be reproduced. We've seen that in one test, and doctors don't understand it. Because now the doctor has managed to give the confirmation of existence in the balanced position. So the balanced position was the way the breast was. You don't need open surgery or do a further plastic surgery. Because it showed at that time, as a new knowledge, Dr. Rodriguez did not satisfy the soul. If the condition of the soul was satisfied, the breast will go back exactly the same shape. But it's the beginning. That's how we do the research. That's how we learn. Those in medical research centers, which are developing this new knowledge, new systems, have to understand. You just don't focus. Your focus in any cancer you develop, is trying to process, has to be an additional unit that it always satisfies the soul. It's like the spaceship. As I said, in the spaceship, you have this process of, you have to keep the 4 reactors in a shape that in existence they keep the conformation of the physicality. So is the soul of the woman. If she decided she wants a breast like this and legs like this, when you process the breast cancer, you have to satisfy these are these reactors that it can keep the same shape. Doesn't matter what you do with it. So you have enforced the rejection of the calcium, but you have not brought the satisfaction of the soul in the conformation of existence. So you get what we saw. But in cases where the doctors actually understand and they satisfy the need of the soul, the shape of the breast is back in position. This is what we taught in the teachings a few weeks ago. We do not need to create what we call kidney transplants and everything else. You take a kidney out, you create the condition of the environment, the same kidney will appear in the condition of the working. It's so simple. But now we understand the knowledge, especially now that hopefully the research centers and doctors have, with today's teaching, understand the creation of the non-dimensional reactors or spaceship systems. It should be very easy to understand. When you make this system, medical systems, I've seen it, but it's part of the maturity of the system. If you look at it, they target, especially with the new dynamic systems, trying to sort the kidney cancer, whatever. Sorry, you missed one part. Why don't you support the soul? In my teaching, I always said, if you can reach the soul, you do not need the physicality. It enforces a condition on it. We are still in the matter state condition of the medical application. Those who develop this space, what they call new technology in cancer or whatever, they have forgotten half of the body. It doesn't exist. They're so concentrated in physicality that they forgot the physicality was created out of the position of their soul. Why are you going to catch a fish when you actually haven't got to finding the right net or the hook for it to do it? Just because you see the fish doesn't mean you're going to catch it. It's very much, there's a what do you call it, a program, television program, Caroline likes very much to watch. It's called The Whisperer, Horse Whisperer. The horse whisperer does not whisper to the horse. It matches to the soul of the horse. And the horse responds. It's the same with the radiation. The radiation in the nuclear, how we control it, we match the fields and we encapsulate it. But it's still there. The medical application systems, you make so many systems to fit, but sorry, you forgot the head. You're just running the physicality of the body. And then you have to understand, every process, every medical system has to have a system which is always fixed to fit, to elevate the soul, that the soul exists. And then you find out you can cut the breast will go back to its position. You don't need to get rid of it or try to get rid of the cancer. And this is what our boss always taught. You understand the process, not look for the physicality. And this is what I tell you. The guy wishes with ALS to die, he dismantles himself to die. If you can elevate the soul, the same body which created the cancer, understanding it will disappear itself within seconds, because he sends over the wrong button, wrong decision. But we still go for the dimension of physicality. In reality, those who work with a cancer patients, if you understand it, you make a help it directly for the soul. You find out the position of soul, the strength of the soul, what is the condition of the weakness, in which part. Then the physicality, oh, the guy walked in, had a cancer, is gone. There is a magic going on. No, because now you understand the level of it. The same as you, when you come from the spaceship, you create the physicality to fit the environment because of the soul. What's the problem? Our doctors don't understand this part. So what do we accept? Do we create a radiation to the body of the man? Or do we give the elevation of the radiation, as you want to call it, in plasmatic level, to the soul of the man that it fits his physicality? Do you want to work on a soldier, or would you like to work with a master? The general is easier to get the commands than going to a soldier trying to see another high ranking officer and another high ranking to get to the general. You already know the position of the general, so you can dictate it. Our medical system should not at all be concentrating on the physical part of the body of the man. It means the science is not understood by the doctors. Then the soul decides, and the physicality will follow. In past 48 hours, I wrote to one of the knowledge seekers, very simply, let the soul make the decision of life. And he made so fast, because it was understood by the person. And it was understood with the both souls. We agree to not to suffer with the physicality. Very simple. This is not something new teaching. I've taught this in a different shape or forms, and I've done it in different ways past 20, 30 years. Long before the Keshe Foundation teaching started. There was an old lady who was in the hospital to die. She wouldn't die. She was there suffering all the time. And I said to the granddaughter, she's waiting for you to go to satisfy the condition of the soul in what she's done wrong to you. I convinced her to go to see the grandmother. She walked in, the condition was met, she died the same night. Hours after it was left from the hospital. Because this is a knowledge we carry from the universe. Man has to understand the conversion of it. Our medical development has to be understood, and don't concentrate so much. The part of physicality you have to affect, whatever. But in the condition of understanding the disease is psychosomatic, it's got to do with the psychology, which means the soul has effect on it. You treat the, the, the general, not trying to why he's destroying his own army. Because if the general understands he's shooting himself in the foot, it doesn't, unless he wants to do it. And that's his prerogative. That's why a soul decides to leave the physicality. We cannot entrap it. Now you understand the science of knowledge of the creation is very simple. It's just that we are so matter state conditioned that we do it. Because there's a pleasure in physicality. We make love in physicality. We kiss our child in physicality. It gives us a pleasure to confirm we exist, not
Hello, Mr. Keshe. We're not hearing you right now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Am
we
I with
do
you
now.
now?
Yeah.
Okay. So now we understand it's our in teaching of today, in what we understand today, in going in non-dimensional physical dimension. In reality, we our physicians have to understand how to distinguish between the physical damage and the psychological damage which creates the physical damage, and those can very easily be sorted through the soul of the man. If the soul decides to die and creates what we call psychosomatic, like MS, ILS, and everything else, then hello, am I back?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we just missed
So
that last part of the sentence.
yeah. So we have to understand to satisfy the balance of the soul itself, not for us to dictate it. It's creating the condition, and then you leave the position of acceptance to the soul. It goes back to the teaching of last week. You create the environment, and all our physicians are very tightly involved in physicality, and it's difficult, so you have to battle it, because you have to elevate the soul of every single cell, that they report to the boss there is such a change, and if the boss agrees, I'll change, then you can change. Why don't you go for the top? The medical systems has to be adopted now that you gain the knowledge. Any other question?
We had a question from the Q&A. Are there any serious threats for the Earth that should make us understand the importance of building a spaceship for the entire human race?
The biggest threat for human race on this planet is the human race himself.
So that would be problematic to build a spaceship for the entire human race. For one thing, we'd never decide in which place to go to. Everyone would want to go to different places, and it would break everything up. How could we go
Say
in
in
one
English,
ship?
we all have different agenda.
Mm-hmm. What about having one spaceship that has millions of spaceships contained within it that can come and go?
The Earth, isn't it?
But they can't come and go as they please yet, though. I'm thinking there'd be like a...
Oh, they do. What do you do when you sleep? You leave the physicality behind. It's just that we want to show where the ship is when we come back.
Mm-hmm.
We go on a standby soul operation. We leave it to the soul of physicality. Just keep the shape. I'm going for a ride outside. Any other question?
I see no hands up, and
that's good. So we can
no
finish.
microphones open.
I think we've frightened many people to understand the totality.
Another one there from Facebook.
The one from another one from Bente about will it work the same way with the same way, meaning with your original questions about the radiation poisoning and so on. in Fukushima. Will it work the same way with other poisons such as Agent Orange, dioxin, and damage in Vietnam?
Yeah,
She had
you
personal
see,
experience with that. That's why she's asking.
there is something that now we can announce. We have explained it before, but in so many ways. Um, when you ask for this disease and that disease, one of the biggest problems at the moment, especially we see in different part of the world, is to do with these 3 injections, which has caused havoc with many families, that the mercury damage. As I said, we have a solution for this, and in a very short time, we will release the process that the families can release themselves from the damages of the injections. I have to come to an agreement with certain part and parameters of the release of the information, but in principle, what you call like autism and other effects which we see with the introduction of these 3 injections, even though they are there to help the man, but apparently what we hear, somebody has decided we kill as many as we can, there'll be 500,000 of us, just because they managed to put a few billions together and they think they're God. They enforced others to control the population. This is out of the immaturity of the brain and the soul, God forbid them. And in that process, they have created the introduction of mercury into these systems into the body of the man. Very soon we release papers. I will write a paper. I haven't written a paper for nearly 2 years. I will write and release a paper that it can be tested by FDA and the world international organizations, that the effect of the injections on the brain of the children can be literally eliminated totally within a matter of hours. It's not that we are holding back. There are certain parameters I try to release the information to, and in that process, things like certain diseases which are caused by introduction of what I call outside elements by the development of the new sciences, some of them deliberate and some of them by accident. I'll release a paper. I will be writing a paper very soon. Can you hear me? You can hear me.
Yes, we caught all that.
So I will release a paper in a very short time in how to reverse the effect of the, what we call the 3M injections. It'll be on the hand of our scientists, our doctors in the medical teaching, to test, release, and in a way free many families from the side effect of these 3 injections. Many of you, I advise you not to do it because it's not easy. It's not advised to be done, but we will develop the process that will be reachable through the Keshe Foundation medical team. We have to understand it, and then literally what we do, we have developed a technology which you remove any mercury from body of the man. The mercury is not just because of the 3M injections. Many of the people in the third world nations, many of the people even in the Western world, suffer from the mercury damages through the tooth fillings. Amalgams of the tooth fillings carry mercury, and they create a lot of suffering, especially for women. It interacts through their menstruation and interacts through their menopause and creates havoc in their life. In a very short time, I will release this paper. I'll write it and it will be released as part of the paper. Why do we have this problem today?
Not sure. Last we heard is you're going to release the results.
Can you hear me? Yeah, I don't know why we have this problem today. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's good now. It's fades in and out. The internet's not a good connection for some.
I don't understand why we have this problem. We never had this problem here before. So in this process, we
Mr. Keshe, is there a storm? Is there a storm nearby?
there's some clouds and
typhoon coming in, perhaps.
maybe too many people are trying to drain the brain to get the information from the soul, not the physicality. And
well, there's certainly a lot of humans on this planet that have been activated by your teachings at this point. So I'm sure you have a lot of conflicting things going on at the same time.
So what we got to do, I might cut off for a few seconds. Let me see if we can change something.
Okay.
Just wait, please. I try to go on your system. Just 1 second, please. Just hold on a second, please. I cannot do. I am trying to do it. That's yours, isn't it? I'm disconnected from Pro. This is the one, isn't it? Z.
We can still hear you.
We can hear you. If there's any magic codes, you better not tell us.
Yeah, no problem.
And I see your hand up there, John. Just be patient. We'll try to get your question in.
Just be patient, please. There's a pen in my office. No. Doesn't take it. We should be able to get this through. No, it doesn't take. Okay, let's go on this one.
So bear with us, everyone, as we go through a few technical changes here to try to obtain a better connection. Notice there's a couple of links that you can see in the chats on connecting with the Fukushima playlist on the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute YouTube channel. Freed mentions in the live stream that the Fukushima video is still one of the best introductory videos to Keshe technology in only 45 minutes. And that's the main Fukushima Daiichi nuclear accident cleanup is the name of that video. And that's posted in the chat, at least in live stream and in the Zoom. You may have to do that.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, hi, Mr. Keshe.
Yeah, okay, we changed the service switch over, so it should be easier to go.
Okay.
So as I said, the paper should be released, or I should write you to release it.
Hello. Oops.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can now.
Okay, so we have to go back to the old one because there's a problem here. I don't understand what's happening this time.
Okay.
So in so many ways, there is a solution for those who suffer from this uh, poisoning or additional structure. We are back again. I don't understand how this is happening, but what can you hear me?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what happens? We can remove the poison from the body in totality, and this is possible due to the introduction of new dynamic systems which we have developed, and it's possible to be done in so many ways. You cannot reject this material through the operation of the soul, because it's something which is introduced physically into the body, and it converts itself. It's conversion which is the problem. It's literally, if you understand the work of this additional mercury, is very much for our knowledge, for our what they call the medical team, is very much the work of the operation of the cancer. It's exactly the same as operation cancer, but enters through the field interactions, and then it deposits itself not at the matter state, but the field states of the mercury. And if you understood by our knowledge, knowledgeable doctors, they should have been able up to now to sort this out. This touches many families around the world. This is thanks to one man who wants to reduce the population of the humanity to 500 million. Because he's so short-sighted that he doesn't see, now that the space is opened up, 7 billion is not enough. But interesting enough, if you look, these people who encourage these kind of activities, they do not inject their own children with it. They don't need it, because they know what crime they're committing themselves. But we'll see in the time. But in the next few weeks, as we should be able to get more time, I'll release this paper in public as a publication of another paper since 2013-14. I haven't released any papers, but I think it's time for it, because it's a very important subject for many families. And especially those who, they got the mercury fillings. There's only one problem, is that some of your fillings might fall out, so you better be ready to be able to go to the dentist and ask for a new filling without mercury. Any other question?
Yes, we have a few questions here. Ballas, or Dan has some questions. It'd be better, Dan, if you were to ask them in person, perhaps.
What's the name?
Sorry, I should say that John had his hand up, and maybe we should allow John to speak.
No, what was the other name you asked?
Dan, he goes by Dan, or Ballas. Dan is the name that he goes with here.
Where is he from?
I think he might
he's on the Romanian team.
Romania, yeah.
Okay.
He's got questions about the GANs. Is GANs equal to nanomatter plus matter, or what is GANs?
How did you create the GANs?
He talks about copper nano plus iron equal to the field of H3, or GANs of FeO2, iron oxide.
The creation of the fields of the plasma is the GANs. In the matter state, the strength of it.
He also mentions the copper nano plus copper equal to the GANs of copper oxide, or the GANs of hydrogen.
No. It's the different process. We create a GANs by condition of creation of magnetic field, which is like a CO2, in the balance of between the fields. Or when we put the matter state, we create a gas from the matter itself. CH3, CO2 are created out of the balance of the fields. That's why they have certain effects in the usage. Zinc oxide and copper oxide are created out of the interaction of the field of the matter state. So they carry the field of the state. That's why they can, in a matter condition, interact with the oxygen. They become oxide. Where is the effectiveness of oxide? The condition of the CH3, as you speak, or CO2 or other gases are created out of the balance of the fields. There are two different, what you call, processes. There are two different entities, even though they both are gases. One is a magnetov, created out of the balance of the magnetic field. One is separation due to the balance of the field.
Okay, thank you. And I'd like to get back to John Wells, who had his hand up here a while back, and maybe we can get back to Dan if he wants to speak at that point.
Yes, this is John from Argentina. I'd like to know how could we get the GMO products out of the water potabilization of plants? Because they also use flocculated aluminium for getting the dust out of the water. Do we use GANs or GANs waters in the process?
Depends how you process and depends what gases you want to produce.
No, not produce. Get rid of. We want to get rid of GMO.
No, I answered you the correct way. What gases you want to produce to add to the system to be able to interact with what is introduced to.
For example, Mr. Keshe, something that's happening now in that regard is this big thing about the stuff called Roundup, which has a glyphosate in it. And there's been a huge lawsuit in the hundreds of millions of dollars from one single person that just won the lawsuit against Monsanto for Roundup. And now this is a precedent-setting case, and it's looking like.
What can you explain? I'm not aware of it. Sorry, I don't listen.
This stuff is an herbicide, and it's used worldwide, and it's been used for many years, and they've always claimed it's harmless. And now they're finding out the glyphosate in it is a cancer-causing agent that is in virtually everything and everybody at this point in time. And it's in the food chain. They've discovered it in a number of different things, including everything from kids' cereals and high amounts to, like, for example, all the wheat would have high amounts of this glyphosate in it and so on. So this is a big deal.
Can you put that on the screen to Wikipedia to see what it is?
Okay, sure.
Yeah, there are residues of glyphosate in the water, the tap water, and the people drinking it are getting high amounts of cancer through this.
Okay, I'll look. Here's the Wikipedia on it as our faithful friend to give us a guide. Let me do the sharing here. Just a second.
Can you open the top picture of its atomic bonding?
Okay, that one there.
Yeah. Okay, if you look at this, it gives you a very direct effect why it causes cancer. Can you go on can you bring the, what do you call it, amino acid chain of the DNA? You see, the DNA of the body of the man has a skeleton of what they call the spinal back of it, which contains, you see what it contains, and then you understand why it's so dangerous. Can you bring, what do you call it?
You want the same structure, but for DNA? Is that what
yes,
you mean?
please. Yeah.
Okay, just a second.
I'll put them next to each other. You have a facility to screen share or split your screen.
Okay, share differently here. I think that'll work. Okay, so we have the DNA here. They don't have the actual.
Yeah, they do. Open up the first picture. The first
big
picture. Just click on that first picture there. Here you go.
Just open it up.
Yellow is phosphorus.
Just open it up. Open the two and put them next to each other. Open it up.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And this is a spine. This is a back of spine bone of the shape of DNA is because of this element. Okay, open it up. Let's see what it is. That's your. Okay, go bring the other picture, not this one with the N and H. And open up the DNA next to it. No, can you go to the, not this color picture of this material? Yeah, that's it. Now open the DNA next to it until you get the same parameters on your DNA, the elements.
Yeah, it doesn't have that same structure in the
Wikipedia.
In the Wikipedia.
Okay, what is your, if you look at on this element, which you just say has created so much, just shrink that number and it tells you what is what. On the left, on the amino acid, just if you shrink, on the top it tells you hydrogen, nitrogen, carbon, and
phosphorus.
What do you have? What do you have on this element?
Phosphorus.
You understand? The reason this whatever it is dangerous, because it carries amino acid backbone, which is phosphorus.
It's got everything the same. It's got the hydrogen, the oxygen, the nitrogen.
We have that.
Rick, I got the a link there for you for the DNA structure.
You see, the spiral shape of the DNA is because of the spacing of the phosphor. So in this structure, with having, can you open it on the other side? Yeah, open it up. Open it up. Let's see. You see why this is so lethal. Because it interacts in balance with the spinal, what do you call it, the backbone of the DNA. The helix shape of DNA, I've written a paper somewhere, I've explained it somewhere, is due to phosphor. So you have the phosphor which already touches the helix, so the helix changes its position, it is not the same shape because of the interaction of the field. So in that position, everything moves. So that's why it's so dangerous. But what do they produce this material? What's the reason of production of this material? And there is a way you can change it. If it is in the waters, you can change it very simple. You can transfer, you can change the bond in a very simple way because it's connected to nitrogen. If you look at it, the spinal space of the amino acid is a protein carrier. So you have a protein in there. Nitrogen of the protein, the hydrogen of the protein, the oxygen is there. What is left is a carbon. And if you look at the, what you call the shape of the structure, it's very easy. You see the interaction of the fields themselves create the carbon. So this is a copy of the amino acid by field interaction. That's why it's so lethal. It interacts because it mimics amino acid, it mimics DNA. So DNA takes as part of it. So it opens it up, the shape of the helix changes, and that's why it's so dangerous. It's very easy. You, as knowledge seekers, you should be able to read this very, very easy. You have, look what you have. You have 5 oxygens. Yeah? You have 4 hydrogens. You have 1 nitrogen. So all you need is the conversion field forces of 1 oxygen or conversion field forces of 2 oxygen to create a field force of a carbon. Then you have a full amino acid, which is a backbone of the DNA, and then you have the spinal cord balance of the DNA helix condition, which gives you the phosphorus. That's it. Voila. You see it, why it's so dangerous. And there is a way you can change this in your systems. If you add the CO2 gas to this, will destroy it. All you need to do with this is to create a CO2, add a water, if the GANS water of the CO2, most probably CO2 itself as a GANS, 1 drop, will disbalance this, will break up the chain. Then you're left with the phosphor, and that phosphor you need, and it'll become a positive use in the structure of the body of the man, because the phosphor will change to the sulfur, become part of your immune system, and the phosphor becomes the backbone of the structure of the physical existence. You strengthen the what do you call, the amino acid chain. Just any of you who do these kind of tests, you can do it. Just add 1 drop of CO2 into this combination, you disbalance it. Because one of these water or oxygens loses, what's going to happen? Let's look at it when you do it. You have a H2O. You have a H2O. So now you have 2 drops of water. What are you left with? With 1 hydrogen and 2 oxygens. When you bring the 2 oxygen with the hydrogen, it has to split. Because if you go back in the world of understanding, in the world of creation, hydrogen and nitrogen gains or loses to become a carbon or oxygen to create the condition of life, amino acid. So when you introduce a CO2, you add to condition that the 4 oxygens become balanced. Then you bring the carbon, the hydrogen is released on its own, nitrogen is freed, and you bring in the total balance of the liquid, what do you call, amino acid. You have a P with it, now the structure is broken. It strengthens the, what do you call, the amino acid, the structure of the DNA. Actually, if you understand this, you can use this as a benefit to human race than a danger to human race. If you can add a CO2 and check it and see what it comes to, then we need phosphor. We need huge amount of phosphor, because the phosphor and sulfur are part of the, when you do the blood test, you see what it comes. They look at your sulfur. Sulfur is a detergent, and phosphor is a building block. If you look at your blood test, you look at the chlorine, the chlor, you look at the phosphor, you look at the sulfur. These are disinfectant of the higher order materials in the blood of the man and the physicality. So if you add a CO2 to this, you change this to the benefit of mankind. But you have to understand why, and it's there. Now it mimics the what do you call, DNA, and that's why when it mimics, it puts pressure on, And then because it's missing a carbon in the amino acid chain, it moves the phosphor in a spinal cord of what are called the backbone helix structure of the um, DNA, and it creates havoc. It doesn't become cancer. You create a new element. But if you add, any of you are in this process, add to a CO2 to it, and you see the effect. And it can be used as a huge benefit to humanity. If you can release the phosphor, which is one of the most needed elements in the body of the man. There is nothing more needed in the body than phosphor. When you eat food and you eat the wrong food, forever your body is converting the elements into phosphor to guarantee the existence and continuity of the DNA. Every cell, every DNA cell needs that energy of the phosphor. And most of the work of the body of the man to keep the physicality of the man in his DNA is converting elements continuously to phosphor. Because every cell, every DNA, when you see a phosphor in the, in the, what you call DNA, phosphor has a cycle of life. 1 year, 6 months, 2 months, it has to be replaced. Where does it come from? Unless the body converts it, most of the conversion comes in thyroid glands, and it comes in thymus, because it uses a lot of energy of the B12 to convert, to keep phosphor always available for every single cell which is produced, carries the DNA, has the whole, is what we call the spinal backward helix, that those phosphor in that, the guy puts just a P, you read it, that phosphor has a lifetime, has to be changed. It loses its power. So it needs to be continuously replaced. So when you have this phosphor, the time when it comes to be replaced, this takes its place. And then it creates cancer, what you call a cancer. But it actually is what we put in there ourselves, and one of the things needed. If you break it up, now you have a bigger source for a healthy life. You can change this poison to one of the biggest benefits to mankind. Many of problems we have in the world of medicine is because the phosphor in a DNA, in a spinal helix cord, changes. And when it changes, it moves the rest of the chain, one of what you call protein amino acids in the C, into something else, or move it slightly to one side, then we call it genetic defect. If you continuously supply the body of the man with enough phosphor that it cannot, especially in the ganses of phosphor, you never change the DNA, you never change any, you never get any diseases. Send this to Monsanto and explain what I just explained, this section, tell them we found the solution for your problem.
This is very big, Mr. Keshe. If indeed we can prove this and show some experiments that that verify what you're saying here, this is a multi-trillion-dollar idea to Monsanto right now, and to everyone in the world, because this is the decontamination of the planet and all of the food supply and all of the waters.
Well, how is it produced? How has it been produced by Monsanto? For what reason?
Well, it's used as Flint mentions in the chat here. Glyphosate is a non-selective herbicide, meaning it will kill most plants. It prevents the plants from making certain proteins that are needed for plant growth.
But now we understand why. So, because you changed the position.
For example, what happens is, right? It works so good for killing plants is now the farmers have decided to use it before they harvest the wheat, because otherwise the wheat will grow too long into the moist season and the wheat will go bad from the moisture. So they spray it with a Roundup to kill the wheat prematurely. So this glyphosate is in the entire wheat chain, mixed in with the the cereals and grains and so on, and it's in the water supply. It's part of the process that they use for killing things and then planting just the crops that you want, and then using
Now you understand where the killing comes from. You change the chain of the protein in the DNA.
Yes. Now, I thought it was interesting. This is the chemical signature for the phosphorus you were talking about. And it looks like two of our reactor combinations kind of joined together by the phosphorus. You see these, I think they're carbon chains actually, but it looks like three reactors and three arms coming out and so on. It's very much a similar configuration. It's a derivative. This is diphosphine, which is a derivative of phosphorus, I guess. But thought that was interesting.
Yeah, but this is what I said. You have to have a full knowledge of the science of creation.
Phosphorus.
You say they're trying to sort this thing out, and if you have a knowledge, with 1 second you can solve it. You see it.
Phosphorus has what they call the tetrahedral structure, as you can see here, the same structure you've been showing us.
Yeah, because this is part of the, that's why it has such a important position in the DNA structure. It allows too many links to be connected, but it transfers energy through it.
So much energy that it's actually a big problem right now with the phosphor, what they call phosphorus bombing, and which is firebombing essentially, and that's come up in the news recently because it's produced, a lot of it is produced in developed countries such as the United States, and it's illegal to use, but yet it's still used in some areas by certain countries, and it's one of the most destructive things for humans. It's very, it burns, it's very destructive in that usage. So perhaps that's another way that the technology you were just talking about can also be used to help alleviate the pain and suffering that comes from that use of phosphorus, where phosphorus is used as an actual incendiary, I think they call it.
Is it part of the orange thing the Americans use as phosphorus in this?
That's a good question. I know
orange agent they use heavily in Vietnam.
Yeah, what's her Bente knows all about that. She was actually involved with that diplomatically. Have a look at Wikipedia briefly on that, because that might tie into yet another use for, like, the CO2 GANs. We know it works well for burns, for example, so it works for also for breaking down the phosphorus, the glyphosate. It makes sense that it would. Well, Agent Orange is an herbicide. It's the same thing as the, that's what the glyphosate is used for, as herbicide.
Well, what is this backbone structure, orange agent?
It's 2,4-D, like I think it's like DDT or whatever. It's this formula.
It uses chlorine.
Yes.
Okay, so if you go on atomic weight, what is the chlorine and what's the phosphor? the periodic table. Expand it. Can I have my glasses from I cannot read.
I'll make it more full page here.
I'm old man, I can't see. Okay.
Okay, there we go.
If you look, okay.
We see chlorine at 17 here on the.
Okay. What is the phosphor?
Let me see. That's right. Close to it on 15. Correct?
No, yeah. You see.
And sulfur is in between. Sulfur is in between that you mentioned.
Phosphorus 30, about 31, and chlorine's about 35.
Well, this is the number on the periodic table here.
Yeah, but it's talking about
That's just the number of elements.
Element. So what you see if you look at the isotopes of one and the other, yeah, you see all the phosphor is a detergent, so is chlorine. Sulfur behaves in so many times, in so many ways. Your body converts the sulfur into phosphor or chlorine as is needed, is the conversion. Depends on if you're, for example, vegetarian, or you're a meat eater, or how much meat you eat, or how much vegetation you eat. In so many ways when you look at it, if you look at the isotopes of chlorine and you look at the isotopes of phosphor, in the bottom range of one and the top range of the other, they are somewhere similar to each other, but they are actually what I call cleaning agents. They are there to open up the amino acid structure. That's what the cleaning agent is. That's what we see it. It's very important when you do a blood test to always tell you what's the chlorine effect, because it cleans. One is for cleaning up of the physical material. One is for cleaning up of the liquid material. Chlor is used for the liquid, for the blood. And phosphor is used for the physical part of the body of the man, which is to do with the, what do you call it, with the copper. If you look at the 4 times phosphor is 60. But if you look at the chlor with a combination of what do you call it, the blood, the content of the blood, it sits on the same ratio with the hemoglobin. When you read the blood test as a plasma science in the Keshe Foundation, you look at the effects of the interaction of the fields, and you always look at the chlor, and you see what level it is. Has it got the effectiveness to clean up the blood, to allow the immune system to be effective? If you don't clean it, you can't do anything with it. The blood is saturated. And then the level of the chlorine in the blood reading has a direct effect on how you can, what do you call it, process the soul.
Mr. Keshe, why did you mention 4 times the 15 of the phosphorus being
Because
60? And I see 60 on the chart here, at least, is neodymium.
No, you don't work that way.
Magnet.
No, you don't work that way. You don't work that way. As in the structure of the plasma, I'm teaching you a secret in the medical application. In the process of the what you see here as 15, yeah? It means there are 15 electrons or 15 protons. If you look at the copper, it's 2930, okay? So if you multiply phosphor by 4 and you multiply the copper by 2, you cannot go double phosphor and lock. You have to lock the copper with itself in balanced field combination. So you make a twin system of the copper in phosphor, and then you have a twin of the phosphor itself. Do you understand? Hello? Are you with me?
I can't say that I am.
Okay,
I'm not sure.
I'm gonna explain to you in a different way. You see, if I should be able
You
options.
could probably
Yeah,
annotate
I'm
right.
gonna write it here for you to see.
Okay.
Okay, maybe you can. This is the way I've done all my work, and then maybe you can see. You see, 4 times 15 is 60, okay? Copper, it says 29, but copper is around 30 in a way, if you look at its atomic structure in the balance field, allowing the plasmatic condition. So 2 times 29 or 30 is, we call it 2 times 30 is 60, yeah? When you create that 60 and this 60, yeah? So somewhere you have to find a balance. You need 2 phosphor. 2 phosphor gives you the 30 of the copper, okay? So now you have 1 copper here and 1 copper here, which they balance each other off. This creates a twins, yeah? Now you got 2 times phosphor, which means the 15 phosphorus, they have to balance themselves too. You understand? Why we look at the 4? Two of the phosphors create the effect of the copper, but they still have the property of the phosphor. So you have to balance with another two phosphor. So you have 2 separate systems, and then you build the system, medical systems, by understanding of this process. Not just 2 phosphor gives you copper. If you go back into production of deuterium and hydrogen and tritium, you've seen the effect of the magnet on it. They're magnetized because they came from that source. So the double phosphor, which gave you the copper effect, has the affinity towards phosphor. That needs to be satisfied. And that's to meet the demand of the plasma field flow, you need 2 of it. In the future, you understand what I'm talking about, because this is the way the atomic structure in the plasma works. You create a balance that the field flow, what you create as a copper, does not get destroyed. It stays and it locks into it, the same as we showed in the balance. And chlor, it plays the same thing through the amino acid level. You
Do you
need
have
2.
to double it because of the spin effect? One, they have different
No,
spins.
it's a plasma. It's a plasma effect. It's a. You see, you look at this copper and the phosphor here in a matter state. You have to look at the copper and the phosphor in a gas state in the body of the man. It's a dynamic field flows. They have to find a balance, or create 2 that it brings the thing. If you look at it in another way, as in the star formation, it takes 3 reactors in the base to match the one in the top to be able to sustain it, that it can work. You always look in the, when you make your star formations, you don't look at the matter state, look at the plasmatic field state, which is actually a Ganser state and a neutron state. This, you look at the fields of the phosphor. You don't look at the electrons and protons in it. It's non-existence because it's balanced by the neutron, if you want to look at it. So it should be no effective existence of any materials, but they manifest themselves as elements because that separation addition allows them to be phosphor or calcium or chlor or whatever. It's the disbalance of the fields which leads to the creation of the matter state, not actually the balance of the field. The misbalance which allows you to manifest in what energy it wants to interact with.
Good morning, Mr. Keshe. I have a question.
Yes, Dr. Azar.
In terms of DNA, when you talk about DNA, is our DNA through our human?
Can you speak a bit louder?
Is our DNA through our evolution of humanity? Has there been any changes on it, or is there going to be any further changes on it, or no?
No, it is evolved. DNA continuously changes. DNA does not stay the same. It's never stayed the same. This is what we said. We were in a meeting this morning with some scientists, and I explained to them, and we discussed this before. The evolution of man or life on this planet is very much has been dependent on a position in respect to the sun. As I said in other teachings, if you look at size of the dinosaurs, 26 billion years ago, whatever, if this imaginary, what do you call it, meteorite would have never hit the Earth or whatever, through the course of the life of this planet in this solar system, they wouldn't have been here anyway. They can't exist. It's impossibility. Because if the sun is here, if the sun is here, and we were here at the time of the dinosaurs, the gravitational field effect of these two was different. Further distance from the sun allowed a bigger field, expansion of the field of the planet. Very much as we see with Saturn. You see the huge size of it. When Saturn comes to the position of Earth, it will be about the same. So if you had animals on Saturn, if you go on one day in Saturn and see dinosaurs, they'll be most probably 30, 40 times bigger than the dinosaurs we've seen on we have. Because the atmospheric magnetical field is much stronger and the gravitational field for of the sun is less. So as the Earth has moved into the position where it is now, the gravitational field forces of the sun forces the biggest animals we can see, elephant. Why do we have whales which have a different structure in the field of the water, can grow bigger and heavier? Because that environment allows the certain amount of filtering from the field of the sun. So animals can grow bigger. If you look at the process that we see now, that we plant a tree and a normal one is 1 meter and ours achieves 1 meter 42 meters, and we say no, because what we done, we effectively have changed the atmosphere condition of it. And in that atmosphere, here was at 1G, here is at half a G. But we don't see it, we think it's what it does. So in that half a G, it can grow bigger. In that process of growing, it allows it to have more foliage. And in that process, because it's higher, absorbs more energy, you get a bigger harvest. Very simple. So in that process, RNA has to adjust and DNA has to adjust in the position of our planet in respect to the sun. And this is not the only factor. The other factor, which is, I'll keep on repeating, Our sun is here, but itself is on a spinal cord of what do you call it? The galaxy. So this has an effect on how our DNA is produced. And this itself has a position in respect to the central line of the universe. That has an effect on what we shape or how high it become too. And then you have the cosmos in respect to what we call our universe in respect to the universe. That has an effect on how we look in this position. It's very simple. So to remember this, it has to be built into RNA and the DNA. Our DNA forever we evolve till we go into the sun, near the sun, and then itself goes back into the position of the galaxy. We always change.
Mr. Keshe, is it the reason if the position of the sun is changing? Is it why, like for example, for the past years, so I feel so different about when I see the sun. I mean, the feeling of the sun on my skin.
Ah, yes, because you fell in love, you got married. What do you expect, Azhar?
No, it's not
It's
that.
got to do with your husband, not to you.
No, Mr. Keshe, it has to do with
Yes. Because you feel different.
Okay,
Your
no,
position
when you talk
different.
about the husband, I have to ask you another question.
So the reason you feel this different because you fell in love. You felt the what do you call it? You received so much from the soul of another man who you gave your life to.
Okay,
so everything is different.
So I have a question. It has to do with the sun. How do you describe the will?
The what?
Will, W-I-L, my will. Like I have a will to do something because the like if a man, I mean, against all odds that is supposed to lose, it wins. It means that's his will. It's our will. For example, against all odds.
Yeah, but you have to understand what was the you physically all the odds in the physical dimension was for him to lose, but he wins. But you didn't see the soul. He knew already he was a winner.
That's what I'm talking about. For example, against all odds that, for example, the war is gonna go, but my will as an individual, I can bring peace because it's my will, because I want it so badly, yes?
Yeah.
So it means if all humanity or anybody who's aware of this, they want it so badly against all odds, whatever the politicians are doing, we still can bring the peace no matter what.
In a way, yes. But what about if we have a different and majority of the people feel they want war?
But the question is, because I have a strength, because what I realized yesterday, I realized suddenly something came to me. It was fascinating. Like everything that I see, even in my apartment, in my office, everything around me is the extension of my mind. So it means everything. Actually, if I give it a number, if I'm 500, I came out with a number when I was born. So my strength is 500. So that 500 never changes. If something goes out, something has to come in. Is no, even if a dot goes out of this 500, another dot has to come in. So if that's the case, so everything is going to be easy, because if you want to replace it, you just lose something to gain something else, because everything we get in our life, we have to pay a price for it. There's never, it stays the same.
Yeah, but if you knew you pay 4 times more than one you receive, you never do that, would you?
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Because, for example, some people ask for something so badly, but they don't know, because suddenly yesterday it's so amazing. So many things came clear to me. I don't know why. I was pondering on these things, because everything we do, that's why the emotion kicks in. You know, certain things, when it happens, when you pay back for with that, the emotion that comes and you bury it, actually that creates a blockage in you. It doesn't allow you to be free.
You see, sometimes we create that condition ourselves to be free. And sometimes we accept the other conditions to be a slave to freedom. Sometimes we need a kick to understand the process, what the freedom is. The freedom is freedom of the will and freedom of understanding how people condition you to accept what you do is wrong, that they are right according, because then they can do what they like and confirming what they've done is right. Because this way then you're always wrong. It's the will to understand what I do is right, and not to be a slave to the condition of what they do and you have to accept. Doesn't matter if it's in the physical life or it's in the dimension of the soul. And we got to understand, even me as my physical life, I get subjected to these things and I learn from it, because that's why I came here to learn. I do wrong and you have to accept. And then you have to accept you are wrong, because then my wrong doesn't show. And I don't want to talk about it. You are wrong. Everything is wrong with you, because what I've done wrong is not discussable. So we condition to accept a false situation, and our soul is aware it's wrong, till we become awake through our physicality that the soul, what the soul understood. Then we make the change. Then we have that conscious. Many people want war, because creating war means they can feed themselves. And arms is good to kill and everything else, huh? Because put food on the table. Peace is dangerous, because I cannot feed my children. There's no tools. So we have to understand this. How we enforce the condition of physicality over the soul of the man. Or can you change the soul of the guy who thinks the war machine is good because he has to feed his children, or to allow him to elevate, to find another way to make a living? And we force it a lot. This situation is very clear. We have to understand what is the position. When the soul of the physicality comes in the balance with the soul of the man itself, man finds peace. And when he's forced to, till he doesn't come to that position, he's always have fights with himself. When you're forced to accept a condition that is somebody else's wrong, is your fault, because it suits them and you're blamed for it, then because they think they're always right, and they're always right, because always they can blame somebody else for the mistakes they made, so they're always right. And your physicality is pushed to that corner, but your soul knows it's wrong. Till you don't find that balance, you don't find peace, you don't find love in what you want to give. And it sometimes needs a kick to kick you in, and then you see it. How come the others do all the mistakes, make all the guns, makes all the things to kill, and us peacemakers, or something wrong with us, they have to create guns to kill that we have peace? What peace? It's the same in our marriages and in our lives. When our partner does something wrong, and then he forces you to accept that it's your fault that I did something wrong, and you accept it, it's your balance with your soul and your physicality, you damage yourself. Till you stand still, did I do wrong? What's the balance between what I've done? If they do wrong, and because of their wrong, it's your wrong, but because you're always wrong, because they have to do whatever they like, you disbalance yourself. It's the same with the social structure.
But Mr. Keshe, the problem is because if people understand there is no such a thing as a belief system, all the belief system is correct, because we all came in for...
We don't believe, we have to understand the soul has to be in balance with the soul of physicality. Why do we get angry? Why do our blood boils, as we say in English? Because the soul of the physicality does not match the soul of the man who feeds it. And part of it you don't understand why, part of it we understand why. It's just what is called, go on the internet and read about what's called silent stroke. Silent stroke, as I explained before, it happens to men or women, majority men, at the age of between 30 to 50. We don't see any damage physicality with it, but we see a lot of damage inside the brain which affects the emotional and behavior. But in that process, the person is not aware of what is going on because it doesn't exist, that part does not register. Till you become aware of it. And many people suffer with it. But when you become aware of it, and then you see in that time what they've done, what you have done that creates a condition, what they do, and then they enforce you, I did it because you were there, but you were not part of it. Then your physicality doesn't accept, the soul of your physicality doesn't accept the soul of the life, because the soul did not damage by the physical stroke, the silent stroke. It's the physicality in dimension of behavior which has. Now you see the two together, then you start analyzing, oh my God, am I in the right place? Why have I accepted? But in that process, part of the behavior has triggered you to behave that way. It's not a will, it's understanding the process of the creation. Read, go on the internet and read about silent stroke. It's so damaging so many lives. And then the ones who do wrong during that time, because you're not, it's like you don't see, you don't have an arm, it's like a phantom pain. And then you have to accept, but the soul is aware you did not do anything wrong because it's part of the loss of the communication inside. And then you have to accept whatever has been wrong done to you. And then you are blamed for it. But where you are detached from it because it's not part of you. This disease is not known. It's very common, but we don't see it. We look at it as a behavior problem. But it's in fact, if you understand, and then you can bring to understand, you cannot repair it because it's something in the field, the strength of no matter state. The process is, the soul is aware, the soul of physicality suffers, but they don't match. When they match, you see the wrongdoing of the ones who they done to you. And then you know the soul was aware, but they blamed you for it. That, whatever is there. And then you become detached from the physicality. You understand, is it my place to be in this position? Then you find balance. It's the same with the war and peace. Now we're trying to negotiate with two governments. These are people out there for so much strength. Why an organization like Keshe Foundation, or me, or all of us, we're trying to show there's a way to talk. These guys talk to each other every day. The political structure needs conformation of the soul. That's where we bring it in. We awaken the soul in the understanding that there is a need for a talk. The physicality will follow. It has no choice. We push and we juggle, but can we be punished for the time where the others in charge have abused their position and they damage deliberately knowing that, and you have to accept it? No, you don't. What's going to happen when the situation comes to a point that all these sanctions and everything put on everybody else because of one country? What for? Why does the whole of Western Europe, the whole of the economical world of the world, pays penalty for one nation wanting to put sanctions on one country? Doesn't make sense unless it's bullying. And what happened when this is over? What punishment is going to be served on the guy who's bullied? Because he knew what he was doing. These are the elevation of the souls. These are what we have to do. It's not just sending the papers to the embassies, but elevating the soul of the world leaders. The same in a marriage, in the house, between husband and wife. I do wrong, and it's my right to do because you did this, and then you have to answer it. So one day, the lion will wake up and doesn't accept what we call all the rubbish which was put on the table. Because the soul of physicality has to be in line with the soul of the man. Doesn't matter, the planet has a soul, the same as what we done wrong to this planet, the way we rip it apart and we do whatever we like with it. Let the planet talk one day, we see the human race will suffer beyond. Maybe man needs the spaceship to run away from what is done to this planet itself, to the soul of the planet.
Mr. Keshe, what do you call ego in this soul and physical soul? And because you know when your
Ego
mind,
is something to do, nothing to do with the soul.
because
Ego is
when the mind constantly
personality.
thinks, and then what I realized by 2 weeks ago, I realized, my God, I thought I didn't have an ego. I had the bigger ego than anybody else, so I had to put a leash on it because it just comes
Good
and.
morning, Azar. How about you? Now you know what I'm talking about.
You know what? The ego is so clever because you know what? Because what I did, I thought I'm a very nice person, but what I was doing, I was.
Why all the dentists are like this? I don't know why.
What do you mean?
This is a general behavior of dentists.
No, it's not a dentist, Mr. Cash. Listen to this. You know what happened? I was paying attention to myself and saying, "My God, my ego is bigger than," and I'm very clever to hide it, like a very nice way. So
You know why?
what?
I tell you why. It's a characteristic of dentists.
No, Mr.
You
Cash.
know why?
A
Yes.
character of me.
Yes, it is. It is a character. But this is higher in the dentist than any others.
No, Mr. Cash.
I'm telling you. Let me explain to you something. Let me tell you what I think. Why?
Because I want to tell you what happened. Because I was actually giving to people things, but until it was under my rule, I would go with it. If it was out of my rule, I had to be in control of it. And I was actually tyranny. And I said, my God, what is this? It came on me. I said, my God, this is the terrible thing. And actually I realized that
That's why you became a dentist. Do you know why? Can I talk?
Yes.
You dentists are the more or less only people in the profession which have created and become more and more. You have the tool to torture. You have a drill in your hand, and you can see if you push the drill slightly that way, the guy jerks and jumps, and I can impose pain on. You understand? Nobody else in no world of medicine alive has that thing in their hand. And this gives a lot of ego transfer, I call it, to the dentist. Because you can decide by accident yourself, I just push it 1 micron, I delivered what I wanted to. How many times you sat with your, if it was a nice patient and it was somebody you didn't like, you did what you like. Because you know you can, you have the tools of pain in your hand as dentist.
It's not about that, because my patient, actually the only people come to me, the people who are afraid of dentists, because I'm very gentle. And nobody.
You said ego. Now it's all right.
No, it's not the ego. I'm talking about, I was a tyrant to my staff. That was what I was, not to my patient.
It's all the same. You transfer one to the other.
No, I mean, I'm getting better. I mean, I'm
just pulling your leg outside.
I put a leak on it. I mean, I did. I'm working on it.
Yeah. Any other question? Thank you very much, Dr. Azar.
Thank you.
There is something, yes, there is something which I'm sure members of the Universal Council will come to it very soon, maybe today, tomorrow. Please, there's a meeting will be called by the Universal Council, members of the Universal Council, to meet with the head of the Keshe Foundation in next few days. It's part of the development of the Keshe Foundation. And in a short time, members of the Universal Council, we asked to meet with the 3 ladies who are the head of the Keshe Foundation in organizing the future of the Keshe Foundation work as what you decided to serve the humanity. It's part of the structuring the Keshe Foundation worldwide. And please attend and listen, at the same time enlighten the 3 heads of the Keshe Foundation. And because from now on, as we move to the next phases of the development, you need to be able to speak and communicate to understand how you can serve humanity as what you chose to do. Attend the meeting with these 3 heads of the Keshe Foundation organization, and I'm sure it'll bring a lot of benefit to the organization and work of what you're here to serve. Any other question?
Hello.
Hello. Okay.
Sorry, just one small thing. Hello, everyone. Hello, Mr. Keshe. I am Marius from Romania, And in respect and in support to what was presented earlier and explained earlier, I wanted to add just a small thing that in the testimonials that have been on this Monday, a few days ago, we have shown different seeds of plants that have been kept in CO2 water, and they recover to their original genome.
We know that for nearly 10 years. We already announced it. We did that
Yes,
in the
just
press. There is a paper Keshe Foundation spent a lot of money with. We used a very nice Belgium scientist to prove this. But that's why we say even if you're going for a genetic, what they call it, reversal, the duration and time has a direct effect on it. We know that from scientific research. There's a huge amount. It's nearly 2 years research on this done. Especially one of the first original research we sponsored. We know that, and what you do, in fact, you buy the same. It's the same knowledge. Understand that what you're doing is what you have done is. I have to move things around. If this is the seed which has been genetically modified, the gene modification is like a DNA. It sits on the outer layers. So the original seed is in the center. When you introduce GANs of CO2 or whatever, depending on the amount of time you do, you take layer by layer off. And if you leave it long enough and you have enough spare CO2s, you take one layer at a time off and you go back to the origin. This we know on the research we did in 2008, 2009, 2010 in Belgium, done by what do you call it? Actually, no, 10, 11, and 12, done by a Belgian scientist for us. We sponsored, we bought the greenhouses for it and everything else. And we know this. That's why, especially in farming, the duration of the time of the seed in CO2 has a direct effect and results on what do you call it, end products you get. For example, 1 minute, 5 minutes, and 10 minutes, you get different growth and different things and different, totally different animal. When you add a CO2 on the surface, you get a structural environmental change. When you put the seed in, you change the shell of this of the seed. And I think it's in part of the research of Dr. Gatwa, very original research, or John in what do you call it, Jim in Australia. Some of this was shown, the time duration of the seeding, so you confirm the finding. We know this. We published something on this some time ago. You can change the genetic modification of, and I said many times, Monsanto's genetic modification doesn't exist. We can get rid of it by time duration. But if you go very back to the far, in one of the tests we did, we took the wheat back to a grass, and it grows like a grass. What happened when we put a seed of, we did actually, if you put a seed of wheat in the long term, and maybe 1 or 2 hours in the water or whatever, and usually wheat grows like this as one stem. When you put it on, it grows flat, and you get 10, 20. But you don't get, you get wheat, because the condition of the atmospheric condition, as I spoke with about the dinosaurs, creates a condition of the wheat today, where the original grass was millions of years ago. But it creates the atmospheric condition, pressures, and you get that. So I think we had 6 or 8 stems from one, and it grows like a grass. It doesn't grow upright, flat, what do you call it, the spinal. So we can see, if you put the seed in different time duration, you can see the evolution of the wheat to grass. What happened 1 million years ago before the other layer comes on it, change of it, and then you see it. We've done this. We have a full knowledge of this somewhere in the Keshe. There are thousands of pictures taken on this process by the scientists. This in the archives of the Keshe Foundation. It used to be on servers of the Keshe Foundation, in original servers. We have it. We can go back to it. It's very nice. One of the original knowledge seekers of the Keshe Foundation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Keshe. My intent was just to bring a very small reminder as we are very, very slowly waking up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. Any other question?
Well, there is several more questions. Yes, in the Q&A.
We are getting a voice back.
Feedback through Stefania. I think it was there. Maybe she wants to speak.
Yes, I just wanted to. Good afternoon, Mr. Keshe, and everyone. I just wanted to share a news about my sister daughter. As you, she was suffering for epileptic seizures, and they started since she was 6 months old. But they started like jumps, and she had it every 15 minutes, and then lately they become epileptic seizure, and she would change the color of her face, and it will take her most of the day to recover from them. But a year ago, after Keshe introduced the soul teaching, I started to introduce this idea to my sister, and since then she used to tell me all the time that the only thing she wants it that her daughter at the age of 3 she would stop the seizures, and when and recently she made 3, and suddenly the seizure stopped, and for us it's like a little bit unbelievable, but I suppose it's confirmation of the teaching that Keshe gave us on the soul teaching, and maybe I suppose because she's maybe the strength between her mothers and her daughters. I don't know really what happened there, but the fact is she's got no seizures since she has make 3, and for us it's like a miracle, because we tried everything to stop them and nothing worked. Yeah, so I just wanted to share this.
So we work on the soul. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We know about this case for nearly 1.5 years, 2 years, and we try to support in different ways. And Stefania is part of the what you call knowledge seekers, and as you know, she's one of the members of the Mojan team, and she understands this kind of works very clearly. Thank you very much. Anything else? Or shall we
thank you, Keshe, because you really helped me, and you helped me also with my dad, because also my dad is improving, and you told me something really important that was quite difficult for me at the beginning to get my head around. I was always talking about my dad, like because also my dad recently, for who doesn't know, he had a health problem. He suffered severely with diabetes, and he doesn't want to take any medication, and he doesn't want to even take any plasma water or anything to do also with plasma. And so that one forced me to again to work on the soul level. And you told me something really important when I was very upset because he was not very well. He was keeping going in coma. He was taken to the hospital, and they said to me they don't know if he was going to make it. And you told me to really force myself to imagine him in the best time when I was with him. So, and it was very difficult. I have to take a picture of him when he was healthy, because I couldn't even imagine him healthy. You get so used to see someone not well, and then it's very difficult even to imagine him how he was before to be healed. and I have to really force myself to reminding him with no health issue. And also, you told me another very good things that really was very important for me. That was to when I was with him to make sure that we had the best time together. And in order to do that, I have to pay full attention and be completely 100% with him. My mind could not be anywhere else. So I have to give him the full of my present and let him know I was there. And it's true, the moment me and him, we start to share a very lovely and fantastic moment together, he was like magic, get better and better. So good, so well that all my neighbors came to me and said to me, "What are you doing? Your dad is so different. Now he can walk," because he reached the point where we found it difficult to even go down to the bed. And after follow your suggestion, we start to go out twice a day outside, and he was quite transformed. And I remember one day, to me, it looked like if it was healthy again, like if it was not ill, just even for a second. And up to now, he's still in much better condition. So I'm trying to apply this even now when I'm not with him. So, and I can see definitely everything you recommended to me. They definitely had. They worked and they had, I have to thank you for it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Do we have any questions? We are nearly 3.5 hours into it.
Yeah, I know that you're probably getting tired now, so we should probably end things. There's a couple of other sort of questions, but we can carry over till next time.
Thank you very much. Please do not stop allowing the embassies and governments to know about what the request of the Keshe Foundation sits with the Iranian government and the President of America. We have to be, in so many ways, not the peacemakers, but we have to be people who enlighten that there is always a solution. Diplomatic peace is very difficult. It's not easy because you don't deal with one person. You deal with a nation and the request of many, many things. But if we carry the soul and the wishes of mankind, we will see the end of this conflict and the beginning of the world peace. It's very interesting that how our wishes affects our lives and other people's lives. And as long as it's positive, it creates a positive change. If it's negative, we become the receiver of it ourselves, because we have to handle what we have created. It's important that we push with do not stop. Don't think I've resend the message of the peace to all the Iranian embassies, American embassies, and any other embassy that encourages. They can encourage the Iranians and the Americans to sit around the table, because we have to type at peace. We have to be the causes of it. Doesn't matter, it doesn't need to be in our name. If we elevate the soul of the world leaders, it's the name of humanity which counts. I don't see anything more important than this at this moment, and in so many ways, the core members know how to elevate the world after the world leaders. They've been through it. Maybe we need that, even though it creates so much suffering for many of us. But it's time to put it on and to allow it and to understand it. Somebody wrote this letter is meaningless, and I wrote to them back and I answered it in a very simple way. This is a diplomatic letter and is not political letter. Diplomacy has its own language, and a lot of people don't understand it because they're too entangled in the process of what we call politics. Diplomacy is like the soul of the man, and politics is the physicality of the man. And we work through the same way. I work as a diplomat, understanding the world of diplomacy. You never insult, you enlighten, and you show there is a path. And then the politicians follow. And in most of in the future, you ever get involved, understand, learn the language of diplomacy, not the language of politicians and what we see in the press. Politicians always heard. Diplomats always affect the whole condition. It is more or less upon us to change it. And remember one thing, whatever we do, we are responsible for the outcome at the end of whatever is done. And the responsibility of the change of this position maybe lies on all of us, because in solving the situation between Iran and the United States will solve the situation in Syria. It solves a lot of problems from a lot of families who are suffering from refugee, because then the forces will come together to force and change for what has been done wrong, and then find a solution for it. One of the things that you will understand very shortly, if the talk between Iran and America takes place and will lead to the same as what 5+1 cause of peace, the situation in Palestine will be resolved in a very rapid way. And these are the last conflicts left. But these are all hinged between the what we call Shia section of the Islam and the Sunni section, using superpowers to get to their position to destroy as many Shias as possible, that they have the domination in one way or another. If we see the situation in Iran is a Shia country, if you look at the Syria is a Shia country, if you look at the Palestinians, majority are Shias. And this has a very clear indication that even the soul of Muhammad is not at peace. It's the responsibility of those who sit in the name of Muhammad to see that there is one house. It's the responsibility of the Universal Council member to see that it's solved in the Arabic speaking and the Iranians, the Farsi speaking. These are the things that you have to resolve through the soul of the human race, and you understand the work which needs to be done. You do not need to be taught, because your soul knows what you have to do. In one word, in one sentence in the letter to the world leaders, we have uttered the word of creation, and that's for them to understand. If you look in the letters with a very simple way, as I explained very recently to a knowledge seeker, it says, on behalf of my government does not sit with Iran, my government does not sit with United States, my government sits with one nation. And you are the governing body. And maybe those of you who don't understand diplomacy now understand how the letter is written. We have to learn the language of diplomacy in the true sense of it, and that for them not to be interpreted the wrong way. Thank you very much for today, and hopefully we'll learn a lot more in the space development and understanding it, one of the final phases of the understanding of the knowledge of the creation. If you can create to go from neutron into a field interaction, and then we can produce the matter state from it, you have encircled the complete cycle of the creation. From energy to fields, from fields to matter, which leads to creation. Thank you very much for today, and hopefully we learn some more tomorrow, next time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Keshe, once again for another wonderful workshop here. Gives us lots of food for thought and lots of room for experimentation and for making a change in the world. Okay, this has been the 237th Knowledge Seekers Workshop for Thursday, August 16th, 2018. As always, thank you everybody for attending and for participating in this workshop series. And I believe we have some video to go out on here. Bye for now.
We are the Keshe Foundation. Our mission is to bring peace on Earth and join humanity with the universal community. We wish and work to bring man as equal to all beings in the universe. By teaching plasma science and technology equally to everyone, no one is left out and no one is abused due to lack of knowledge. By donating to us, you can help achieve this goal. keshefoundation.org/donate.
Plasma products found at keshefoundation.org/store. Soothing, reusable plasma eye and migraine mask. Eliminate eye fatigue and relieve stress in eye area. European certified medical device. Massaging plasma insoles. Bring comfort back to your feet and energize your legs. European CE certified medical device. Antiseptic plasma liquid hand soap. Promotes well-being and relaxation with protective plasma formula. CE certified. One Soul Plasma T-shirt. GAN's formula within the symbols and stripes brings mind, soul, and body into balance. European certified. Pain Relief Pen. Emits a concentrated plasma field at point of pain, efficient up to 3 centimeters below the skin. CE certified. The Magrav's Energizer and Alkalizer raises pH and energizes water through magnetic and gravitational fields. CE certified medical device. Pain Relief Pad, a result of years of research in nanoplasma technology with magnetic and gravitational fields. CE certified medical device. Visit the online store at keshefoundation.org/store or find a distributor near you. Tax and shipping not included.